Oh, there we go. Thank you, Rand. Oh. Yeah, and yeah, I will get someone else's picture of him. Yikes. The live stream is working. All right. We believe we're good. Scott, are we good to go?
Yeah, check. It's still not showing up for me. She's seeing it, so I think we're.
I do have someone that's watching.
It's good. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll just make a quicker intro, but again, welcome everyone. Holly, it's nice to see you. And I don't know if we've got Courtney yet, but we'll, as soon as she's available, then we'll get her into the meeting. Want to thank everybody for coming, and this does give me an opportunity to thank there's Courtney, hello. To thank Superintendent Randy Lords here in Madison for arranging the room, and he's helped with our technology and so forth. So it's nice to be over on this side of the state. I'm going to share this again. It's Allison's birthday, so happy birthday to Allison. She's here to help support us. And for those that didn't know, Laura got married since we've seen her last. So we're going to offer her another congratulations. And your name, so Laura Milton Hayden. All right, we'll get that updated in our materials. We'll start to make those changes. And as a reminder for the parent panel, we want to make sure that our work here in the panel stays in the public eye. And as we've had training on this, it never hurts to be reminded that we don't do anything that could be construed as a serial meeting, whether it's, the panel discussing or deliberating through email, phone, with each other through social media, all of the things that are outside of this formal setting. And like I said, it's always good to be reminded of those things as we move into our business. At this point, we will take a look at the agenda as posted and approved. And if there's a motion to move on with that, I would accept a motion.
Madam Chair, I would like to go to amend the agenda.
Okay, what would the amendment include?
I'd like to amend the agenda to insert between numbers 3 and 4, panel discussion on feedback received.
I will second that.
And there has been a second to the motion. So discussion on the motion itself with the amendment. I guess I would ask a question if there could be a little more information on feedback, what that looks like,
I would just like to have an opportunity to discuss the feedback both received on the email, who's receiving the email for the panel, and also feedback that the parents are putting out there, both via the email and online.
Okay. So specifically parent feedback as it's been viewed by panel members or just made available through emails or whatever.
Well, and there's been some vendor feedback as well.
Okay, all right. So program feedback.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there was a motion and a second. I know I asked the question, but for the panel, is there any further discussion on the amended agenda?
We also, in the last meeting, it was portrayed that we would be visiting vendor and getting questions answered. Is that happening?
The contractor.
Yes,
I know I said that. I've said that same thing.
They are available at 2 o'clock. That means we need a representative from Odyssey who will be available to take questions.
Other questions, discussion?
So we probably could just move that all in. Just put that one. So let's say parent, vendor, contractor.
Okay, all right. Any more discussion on the amended agenda motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, we are unanimous in favor of the amendment, and we will add that. Moving on, we do need to have a.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Is there a motion? Right, and all that. Say aye.
Aye.
We are unanimous in favor. Thank you. Looking to item number 2 on our draft minutes, I am aware, and I'm sure many, if not all of you caught it, there is a date change that if there's a motion made to approve of the minutes, you do need to make a slight correction on the date. And so Allison, that one specifically is for
August 17th, that date should actually say August 8th.
so I know it appears correctly on your agenda,
But the top of the minutes.
but the minutes itself is where that changed. So if there's a motion to approve of the minutes without any other corrections, I would hope that we could see a motion to include that correction.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to table the minutes.
Okay. Well, if we
Second.
Okay. I don't know that we can. How about we discuss it here? Tabling it doesn't mean, I think well, I guess I don't know what you mean by that. So
Until the next meeting, only because it's a discussion.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sorry, Madam Chair. I'm asking for that because I would like to have at least 3 days to review them because they went to the email that we don't see.
There was gotcha.
We just
Okay.
barely-
So rather than table, why don't we do this? We could have a motion to correct the date,
Okay.
and then we will postpone the approval of the minutes until next time. Will that work?
Madam Chair, I think her motion is in order. To table means to postpone to the next meeting. So I think I'd be fully open to correcting the minutes. That's fine. But if none of them are approved, then there's no motion necessary to correct them. So I think if we just table them to the next meeting, that would work just fine.
I can table until our next meeting. And it may be a work session meeting.
Well, if you do time certain, typically in parliamentary procedure, table, it's like that goes,
To time uncertain.
it goes
Yeah.
like far away until the chair, just to the call of the chair.
Okay,
And
so.
so that's what I'm trying to
Right.
avoid is that we, anyway.
So
Okay.
how, I'm more than willing to read. And so.
But we could just do it in one motion and have,
Move to table the minutes until our next meeting.
yeah, just postpone the adoption of the minutes.
Yes, is that
All
right?
right, yeah.
Okay.
There's
Is
a
that-
motion. You got
is that
that,
Are you
Allison?
good?
Yes, thank
All right.
you.
And Holly, did I hear a second there at the end of what you said? Okay. So,
Yes, I haven't had the opportunity to read them either, so I would appreciate that.
that is more than fair.
I appreciate that with the travel.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, discussion of that motion. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. I think we are unanimous in favor. I was looking and listening. Item number 3 is our public comments. Allison, we do have
A gentleman who has asked to participate virtually
okay.
to address the panel. We're letting him into the Zoom room now. His name is Brendan Hill. I'm gonna let him state the rest of the information for the record. Let's see, joins the meeting. Brendan Hill.
And were we made aware of anyone else?
This is the only one that I've.
Okay, so we were in advance notice. Mr. Hill, we can see you. Hopefully you can hear us. give you a minute to get organized.
I heard you.
We can, you're cutting out just a little bit, but maybe as you get talking, that might change.
I hear you guys loud and clear. So I need to mute. I just need mute for now, correct?
There's a little bit of a delay. We just can't quite hear every word you're saying.
Yeah, and you're welcome to turn off the video part if that helps with the streaming better. Or the audio, I mean.
Let me try that. Now let me do a test. How's my sound now?
Much better, yes.
Better? Great.
Yes.
Okay, well, I can just listen. That's fine.
Okay. Again, thank you for joining us. We have opened up public comment to about 5 minutes per individual. And so the time is yours and welcome to the panel.
Was fast. I thought we'd be at the end of the meeting. So I was just going through my documents here. And I guess I just have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if you know anything about my background. I was a parent and a vendor with the program. And in the process of setting up as a vendor, I basically got the business started for my wife and daughter, who took over the business officially January, February. But I was there having come back to deal with issues that came about in March, end of March and April.
Would you mind repeating that?
And then of course I'll help with some, but I have my own.
Out again, we heard the January, February, and then I'm not sure what you said right before March.
Okay, so what basically business up, and I do not own the business. I'm representing my wife and daughter. It is their business, and they have me assist them with some of the technical stuff, not just with the website, but also in communications with Odyssey. Other than that, they're 2 stay-at-home moms, and this has been a fabulous program for them for many reasons. I know it hasn't been easy. I think that is due to the speed that this was implemented, and
I'm
so
interrupt you again. It is cutting out enough that I hate to ask this, but if we provided you with a phone number, would you be willing to? We just want to make sure we get everything that you say, and so
yes, let's do that.
Or we could call you. You tell
Okay.
me works best.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Oh, I have
yeah.
oh, good.
Yeah.
So I can,
So you know what, Mr. Hill, we will give you a call. We've got your number. And so we're going to disconnect you this way and then pick you up on a speakerphone.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your patience. Well, that's true. He could still be
Yeah,
on
he could
video
see,
while
that's
we're,
awesome.
yeah, that might be the best combo.
Hello.
Hello again.
How's
Thank
that?
you. It is. It's quite a bit better. And again, thanks for being patient with us. Why don't you start from the beginning? And that way you've got a good run at it.
Great. Well, I could just start from that pretty, that's easy enough. My name is Brendan Hill, for the record. I'm representing my wife Julie and my daughter Samantha Larson. I started for the process as a parent, making sure I got in early, and then saw that they're looking for vendors, and that's where we had the discussion and came up with the business idea for Sammy and Julie, the stay-at-home moms. Sammy's a recent graduate of Boise State with a background in finance, so it was good timing for them. Well, I helped it, and once it got running, they actually owned the business, laptops and more. So we were a vendor, and I only helped when they had IT issues and helping with the communication with Odyssey. We ran into, obviously, in March, we started talking with Odyssey about two products that we had on our website, TVs and cameras. And in that process, I was always attempting, as you can see, if you have those emails in front of you, or if you ever get a chance to look through them, I was always open and trying to understand the process and bringing up questions like, well, here's an area you guys haven't thought of. This is an issue. And in the process, providing that information, we were shut down off the website as a vendor, provided information that they requested, put back on, and then they shut us down again and kept us off. And I was ultimately, with a lot of lack of information or feedback from Odyssey, lack of communication, I was told that the ISBOE had decided we would not be vendors. And that was it. And we're trying to understand what happened, because I thought we were part of the process of improving this for the long term. I mean, I wrote a letter of reference for Odyssey that helped them to obtain the Iowa contract and spoke with the state of Iowa directly. And I still stand by that letter. I don't retract it one bit. I'm just trying to understand why a small Idaho company, we were shut out. There was no due process, no room for appeal. And I mean, we did 1.7 million gross sales for the first 4 months. The last 4 months, it's been zero. So you can understand our position. I would like to see this resolved to everyone's satisfaction. You can understand the kind of position we're in. So I just was hoping to get some information today.
Thank you very much. And thank you for providing such great details with the situation. We will have a time in our agenda where we will be speaking with the contractor. And I know that the panel has questions on the process for vendors and some of those other things. For your specific situation, looking at Jen, what would be the best way to get to some of his questions, very specifically as he's currently participating in it, whereas our panel, our charge is the forward-looking, how to go from here. And so I'm trying to understand how we can direct you to the right people for if you're in it right now. Jen? Okay.
That's really good.
Okay. Could he get in touch with Heather personally and facilitate, somebody on the board side facilitate the conversation with Odyssey? Okay. Okay. Okay.
I've reached out to Odyssey and to Heather, gave no response.
Okay. Well, we will let's get a response. Let's facilitate some communication. And like I say, I don't know what your timeline is like today, but you're certainly welcome to watch the rest of the meeting. There will be a discussion today and on some of these things, just again, the process for vendors and what all of that should entail moving forward. But again, knowing that we're in this interesting, we've got people that have been a part of a program for which there were recommendations, and now we're trying to get some. We'll go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a quick final note to help that process. Through a lot of this conversation, I was bringing up, hey, for one, we don't even have a contract. We didn't receive a vendor packet telling us what and how to do it. It was kind of fly by the seat of our pants. When just one day we started getting emails, automatic update saying parents wanted to enroll in our website. I'm like, wait a second, this is going. So no warning, and then having to go through FAQs to figure out how the process works. And I think the fact that there's no contract, and something's been missed here, there's no protections for the parents or children with their information. There's nothing that binds the vendors, us vendors, because you're handing us honestly, parent names, children's names and ages, phone numbers, email address, and they sign into our website, we're now giving their home or shipping address. So there's no protection contractually for vendors with that information. I think that's a real red flag that you guys might want to get a sticky note and put it on the top of your agenda for moving forward. I think the agreement they came up with was real soft. It was vague, and that's why initially we didn't sign it until, in an attempt to get back on, we did agree to it, but only after I had a customer service agent with Odyssey say that the contract was for that point moving forward. So I think that kind of closes the loop on all my information for you, but I think there's some work to be done to help it out. And I have those suggestions from the vendor standpoint. I'd be glad to offer those if you'd like down the road.
Thank you. Amy?
Mr. Hill, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Amy Henry. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to reach out to us. Second of all, I don't know how this process works because we don't have any, I don't know how you get this information to us, but I'm wondering if you would be willing to send us the dates and the information on this process and what you've been, what you've gone through with Odyssey, like the dates, what you received, your paperwork.
Okay.
Would you be willing to do that for us?
Yeah. I can put together a summary for you, just kind of how the process rolled out. I think that's beneficial. I think that helped us assist the parent on the instructions because we did it as a parent ourselves. So we're able to kind of hold their hands. There's a lot of questions for the parents on just what kind of technology to get, what Chromebooks, what size memory, and that was really the rewarding part for the three of us when I was assisting early on, being able to answer questions for the parents. And of course, we have a lot of folks who don't speak English and working with the people they have to get the technology to the parents for their kids. They wanted it quickly, and we did our best to do that and under the circumstances. But I can absolutely put all that together, kind of give you a timeline and how clunky it was. But I got to give Odyssey a hat off. Once you understand the system, it was simple. And I say that in my letter of reference. It's like every business has hiccups. It's how you manage those through the process. So I've got no complaints there other than how it's kind of just the door shut and no information from that point forward. That's my only concern right now. It's like, other than that, there's just normal snafus that come with anything. So you just kind of, if you're ready for it, you're just, just expect it. It's not a big deal. But I know there's been a lot of hate out there in the media made probably most of it. They don't do us any favors either.
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
great, Mr. Hill. If you would do that, I'm sure
Yeah,
that would be great for
let's have-
superintendent and for the panel.
Right, well, let's have that information come to Allison, and so we can,
Email for Al,
Yeah.
or shoot.
yes, we can do that, and we can get that to the panel. Again, thank you for making the time and sharing an experience. And we look forward to seeing that resolved on your end. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for your time.
Take care.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to hang up that way.
Sorry.
I do want to just getting in, I don't want to keep the panel from getting detailed information. You can have whatever information you want. As a reminder, when we go to recommend, we're not recommending steps 1 through 10. We're making a recommendation of should it be easier for vendors or something along those lines. And if there's a specific element you want to include, I think that would be appropriate. But again, and we can attach things to recommendations, but for the panel, we don't have to get down into here are the exact steps we would expect a vendor to encounter or not encounter. So we didn't put any time certain on the public comment section. And so my suggestion would be, we don't have anyone in the room, and because we don't have time certain, if someone comes, we're not going to keep them. And maybe that if somebody comes, we have them do it at the end of the meeting, or we pause where we are, or if someone tries to come online and wants to do that, rather than, let's take advantage of the time that we've got and move through our agenda, rather than, wait to see. So with that, we're going to move on then to item number 4. A couple of things just as a note. Excuse me, amended. So I thought we were between 4 and 5. 3 and 4, you're right, I circled that. Thank you very much. Okay, so with our amended motion, our new number 3, and we'll reorder our new number 4. All right, so feedback that's been received relative to the administration management of the program. Whereas you made the motion to amend, I'm going to look to you to start the discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as we were invited to join the social media post with the parents, it was a huge eye-opener for me. I'm also aware that some people are on these social media posts. However, as I was going through the hundreds of parent comments on here, I think they're very relevant. And I wasn't aware that this was taking place because we are receiving, what, 5 emails maybe from parents that we received from that email. They're saying that they're emailing us and they're very upset with the panel that we're not responding. And so that concerned me a great deal. And so I didn't respond on here because we're not supposed to be responding. And that concerned me as well. And that's why I commented in our last meeting that I want to make sure these parents are understanding that I'm not really sure.
Do you have names of people who say they've emailed but you haven't seen anything?
There's a lot of parents on here, and their answers to each other are, well, why bother anyone emailing them? And by then they mean us, the panel, because they're not responding. And that concerns me because I applied for this panel so that I could help the parents. And I want them to know that I know you as well as us. We're here to help them. And so, for example, there's this mother that has a child, and she's a homeschool mom, and she was approved to purchase a $25 item. And I'm trying to be careful because they want to stay confidential, and I don't blame them. And it was a $25 purchase, and they were approved. And this is in the past before you and before us. And they're approved by the contractor, and now they've been denied. And so she has to prove that her daughter has an IEP. Well, she doesn't. She's functional. So then she had to prove with the doctor's note or some other way that her daughter is special ed. Well, she's not going to give them because HIPAA adoption. And by them, she thinks it's us. It is what it sounds like from all of these posts.
Can I interrupt and ask a
Yes.
question, or just a clarifying question? So as far as the email concern or frustration, two sides. One is people not getting a response to emails that are in the program currently. And then also folks that have submitted to this panel an email that they believe there was an expectation that they would get an answer, that it wasn't just a comment, but they wanted to be replied to. Is
Yes.
that, I'm just trying to understand the
Yes.
distinction. Okay.
I have a quick question. How many emails have come in? Because we've only received like 5.
So you've received all the emails, that's all.
That's all.
And so all of those emails that the panels, they have been responded to. Thank you for reaching the panel. And then between myself and the state board office, we share those and see what the response needs to be. So if it's a vendor issue or whatever it is. So you have all of the emails that have been submitted to that email address today.
So it's just that small, like less than a dozen.
As far as county and most forests.
Well, some of them are long. They included all of their.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Very
They
few.
included, okay, yeah, they're long emails. Some of them, because like all the background information stuff. I wonder if part of the confusion, because I've been looking a little bit and it sounds like a lot of the confusion is stemming from misinformation, from unclear and changing expectations of the program, which I'm hoping.
So again, kind of caught in that, if you're already in the program and now the panel comes to inform future administration, and then frustration with people that are currently,
Well,
that got the grant or did
there's
it.
some wrong information circulating on it. I have a coworker who happens to be affiliated with the program, who is under the impression she has to spend every cent of her current year's grant before she can apply for next year. So she has like $20 or something left, and she feels like she has to spend it, and somebody in the group told her she had to spend it. And I was like, I can help get clarification on that for you, but I'm fairly confident you don't have to spend $20 to spend $20 if you want to apply for another grant and use that money for something going forward. So I think part of the frustration is the growing pains of the program and figuring it out, because there's a lot of gray right now.
Well, they do.
Who's the administrator of the Facebook page?
Well, actually, they're doing a very good job.
No, and I'm just
Well,
curious.
I don't want to put their name out there. I think we need to be careful about.
But
taking
they're a
names.
parent.
Is it another parent
Yes.
or is it somebody?
Yes.
It's just be interesting. I know oftentimes with a lot of the administrators and Facebook groups, there is usually somebody in there monitoring to make sure that the information being disseminated is actually accurate.
Yes, and they're doing a very good job.
Okay, so I was just following up on.
I'm watching that. I am watching that very close. What they're talking about is at the end of their 2 years, the money right now, according to the legislation, is supposed to be spent or it goes back to the state. So that is true. But it doesn't keep them from.
Well, is it their
applying
money
for
or is
another
it the money that was appropriated for the program?
the grant money?
So,
But can we hold on that for a second
Yeah.
and go back to this? Just for a second. So, but what's happening is people, I don't know if we're going to use the word deny. I don't know if I'm using the right word.
I
But
don't
they're
use that,
saying
yeah,
that's
don't
the
use
word
that
they're
word yet.
using.
We'll get into why that's, anyway, I don't.
But they're,
We got a whole.
but this
meeting.
particular example was $25. So she was approved, and again, I don't know if approved is the right word, but okay, but she's already had the grant, so she has the grant. The item, $25 item was deemed eligible. So she made the purchase. Now, she has been told by Odyssey or the board, whomever it is, that she is no longer eligible. So, and this is a lot of people saying this on different items, on the same scenario. She needs to prove that this item is eligible. And
she's already been purchased and paid for.
yes,
Okay.
way past before you. And so now feels like she's done that and she's not doing anything else. She says, let them come and try to get the money, I'm not paying for it. And a lot of people are saying this. And she's saying, let them, us, okay?
Which would not be us.
Right.
But
But,
anyway.
but either way,
But
they're
in their minds,
frustrated, and
gotcha,
I,
gotcha.
I want to try
Okay.
to help them. I
Okay.
would like to make it, I really would just like to comment and try to help her. And so that's what I'm trying to do here today. So they're saying they had until August 15th to respond to whomever it is that sent me this letter, which I don't know because I haven't seen any of this.
Right, and
So I
we'll
don't
get
know.
into, right,
Right.
we'll get into that discussion, but.
To send back a doctor's note, a IEP. The last response was now they want to see my homeschool curriculum and what I'm teaching, and that's not going to happen. And so I'm done. I'm not sending them. So then another parent commented and said, if you don't send them something to prove this, they're going to kick you out of the program and you'll never be able to apply again. So then that created a whole new hornet's nest. And so those are some of the examples. And she's like, I know it's only $25, but it's the whole, it's just the gist of the thing. She's like, it's so frustrating. And my frustration is, if we told these people to start out with, that this is indeed the truth, that we told these people long ago, not we, us, but the program, that these things were eligible. Why now are we coming back and saying, and again, not we, us, but the program, that they are ineligible? I'm trying to understand
Sure.
because I feel like we as a panel are being asked to do something now, let's say F, but we have not seen what's happened with A, B, C, D, E. And so I've been trying to, over the last couple of months, and maybe haven't communicated very well, find out what's happening with A, B, C, D, and E. Even if that's not our expectation and our job and our objective, it's hard to make decisions. Well, here, we haven't seen what's happening.
Sure. So breaking this out in, again, to people that are currently in the program that have not had the benefit of panel discussion. I can absolutely understand how people who are currently frustrated would look at the panel and say, oh, yay, someone that's now going to facilitate the solutions to the current program, not recognizing that that's not the legislative charge that we have. We're make recommendations, moving forward. With that said, the other part of our legislative charge is to develop the appeals process moving forward. Our new number 6 is the, I think where we can get into this. Let's use a $25 example because you're going to have all sorts of examples, it sounds like, based on feedback that you've all seen and heard. That we could, and Jen, you'll help us here. The panel makes the recommendations to the board on here's what the appeals process looks like. Could there be well, I'm going to not say could. I believe there could be a recommendation that would help the board know what to do with that kind of holding pattern of people. Like, we're not sure. The board's not sure yet. I'm seeing a nodding head. And so we can continue to share, feedback and so forth, but I know that and when we get to number 6, I think that that's a great example of how do we want the appeals process to look moving forward for people? What should those timelines look like? What should communication look like? What elements do we want there? And then as part of our recommendations, there could be something that this panel discussed. I think it was the first meeting, if for sure one of the first 2, where the expectation was if it was on the contractor site, wouldn't that imply that it was an eligible expense? And so, that could be a recommendation of the board to maybe help diminish some of it, but Barb.
And to follow up on what you're talking about, I think a lot of these comments, because I've been reading through a lot of them as well, I think what they've done is to really illuminate where people are having issues, that as we are making these recommendations for moving forward, because we can't really move back, that maybe how we do people being eligible for purchases, but really look at, say, that situation that you managed and said, okay, is there a recommendation we can make to the board, to staff, on how to address that? If somebody comes in and they're trying to buy something that maybe needs an IEP or something, what is the solution? What pathway can we give them? So we can look at those issues and just see them as ways that it's not person who had that issue. What are the recommendations moving forward?
Thank you. I think Jason and then more.
My concern with making these specific recommendations is we're getting a little bit too much into the weeds. And so if we, and I'm on that Facebook page, and there's a lot on there, and there's a lot of the same questions that get asked and asked and asked and asked and asked. And they're still the same answers. But we need to look more at making these recommendations as the majority that will help the most amount of people. And our charge is not to make this program perfect. It's to help it this year and get the grant money out. And then next year, we have either a different set of parents or the same panel, but then we help it a little bit more. We don't have to make it perfect this year. So that's, my goal is to try to get the grant money to the parents. And if we are in meetings, this is what happens.
And I agree. Great picture.
Well, and I think part of our discussions were, we could make a recommendation on, these are the ones, like, the audit showed these ones and deal with these purchases of parents who are currently in the program, who've been awarded grants this cycle, and moving forward with recommendations. So I think that could be part of looking at it globally and saying, okay, there is all this confusion and all these things, like, we're cleaning up the process. It's already.
So then we don't have pages of confusion. And I can, yeah, and I can confidently say that the board and the management of the program, they're also glad. We'll be glad to see something like that. Laura, was that your?
Yeah,
I didn't want to cut
I
you
think
short.
not getting into the weeds of it, but yeah, we're cleaning up, like, not cleaning up, but we're polishing it and making it work going forward. It was a program that was started initially as a temporary program. So it is this panel and this work and the recommendations that help guide it as it moves forward. And so I get the parents' frustrations of reading it, but I feel like we're going to get there with these recommendations. They can type with us for the next month.
Yeah.
Things will get, and I see us moving forward to the best.
I like,
Not all, yeah.
like the attitude. Yeah. Other comments specifically on parent or I guess feedback, public feedback?
Right, there, just to make you aware, it sounds like, again, I don't have proof of this, but it does sound like from all the feedback, there are real-time changes happening with eligible items.
And we, would it be okay to save that question for
Yes.
Odyssey when they are,
Yes.
you said they were gonna do?
But that's also, just so we have that in the minutes,
Okay.
with feedback, that there is a lot of feedback on that. And they're scared to spend their money.
Okay.
Because they're afraid that it's going to come back around, and it's going to be deemed eligible today, and next month ineligible.
Okay.
And they're going through this process again, and needing to prove why it's eligible. So that's concerning to them.
Other specific points that you'd like, anyone would like to address on the public comment, feedback, input side?
Madam Chair, I just think also, if we could get in the minutes this, and I know it's just a, that's somewhat offensive, sorry. I'd like to have that survey in there. Survey that was taken, who put that, who added that online? Who put the survey via Facebook? It was in our email feed, just to say who was satisfied with the parents did a survey. Do we? Yes,
Sure. Because the membership of the Facebook group is such a fraction of those awarded the grants. I really like the information we got on those who haven't spent their grants yet. I wonder if this is information we want on if parents are satisfied or unsatisfied. Because everybody who's been in the program, who was awarded during this last grade cycle, to be able to give all parents an equal opportunity to listen to their satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the program.
be really interesting to see what responses to the same questions to everyone who's been involved and distribute it to them.
I'm gonna look at Jen, is that something that we'd be able to send out? I mean, we can send it out, we can't make people
Right.
take it or return it,
Right.
but nonetheless, make it available.
Right.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I believe this is probably a normal sampling for a normal survey. Percentage wise, this is what we normally get in education. But I would love that if we could get a survey, but if we could also have this recorded, I would love that.
Okay,
My opinion is Facebook surveys are inherently negative. And you will see that the groups on Facebook, and it's town groups and neighborhood groups, if you put a survey on there, it's gonna be way more negative, so. I
this
think
survey
that
would go to the
actual
current
broader
vendors,
survey,
right?
like what with the State Department sending out would be.
Is that what, I thought that's what we were talking
There
about.
are 3,100 members in this group, and I think, I mean, you read their information, these parents, I think that's us telling these parents that they don't.
But we're also assuming that it's all members, that it's all.
I know, I understand that. I'm just saying, let's just acknowledge the survey, that's all. Let's compare the two.
No,
It's just that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. The panel could adopt or accept additional materials to be included in the minutes. I think there's been enough questions raised as to, do we want to have something that we're not, that we can't verify, be included as part of the public record? Would it be possible to ask the people on Facebook to email the administrator account for, I mean, that to me, that's what we've asked everybody else to do. That if you have something to share, this is where we want, and now we've got 12 people that we're doing that. And I feel like in fairness and uniformity, that is something we could go on and say, hey, please share your story, but share it through the channels that we have.
Okay, could we, in putting out a survey to all, like, post, like one, I don't know, I'm sure, one person post on here, here's the email address, and look for this survey that's coming, kind of to the Facebook groups, they.
You know, we don't need a motion for that, but we could take care of that and maybe,
Just that way, it's
sure, so it's not coming from an individual panel member, but, you know, here's how we would ask you to share the same stuff. We want, you know, we want it, and then I think that seems like the most fair and reasonable way to handle it, that we do have a channel, an avenue to do that, and other people have used it. This is what we ask you to do.
Okay, so Madam Chair, instead of the poll, because I hear what you're saying, that it may be people that aren't in the program, I would like to have the questions added to the minutes, because their questions are grant recipients. And the questions are, please respond to the following. Number one, what are the strengths of the program? 2, what are the weaknesses of this program? And 3, what improvements would you like to see? And all of them, and I read them all, are recipients of the program, and they are very precise.
We can add the questions that were presented without the specific responses. We can add that to the minutes as part of our number 3. That, yeah.
It is very good feedback. It really is. And I didn't find it negative at all. I felt it was very, I mean, we really should be doing that.
And we'll get, Amy, we'll get those from you. Taylor's, we've got.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right.
And there's a lot of positive in there.
Okay. Wonderful.
Can I just clarify, you want the survey to go to all parents?
I'll ask the panel. Courtney and Holly, they're the ones in the room are saying to both, send a survey to both parents and to vendors for their user experience.
But like,
Right.
we can separate.
Right.
So we
can-
have
yeah.
separate.
We can divide that out.
I think it also shows that there's a concern that we want to know how everyone's feeling and be able to take that information. Shows that we want to listen.
Right, it's very important.
All right.
And then Madam Chair, I'm so sorry, two more things, I apologize.
Good.
It's meant for that teacher. The special ed piece is really important to me, and especially when we're talking about homeschooling, because we know in statute in the state of Idaho, we do not ask our homeschool parents to provide curriculum, doctor's notes, and those sorts of things. So I really would like to see that process on what we are asking those homeschool parents to be showing us, because that is a really sensitive topic.
Can we incorporate that into our panel recommendations? That could absolutely be a very general recommendation. And work can be done to see how that satisfies the recommendation. But yeah, so keep that on your
Yes,
paper,
thank you. And then
something to add.
also the second thing, and then I'll stop. The ask that I had of the board on the wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and this may fit somewhere else. So please forgive me, make it better. On how many students fall under 60,000, between 60 and 75,000 AGI, and over 75,000 AGI. I still do not have that. And so I don't know where that falls.
We got that.
No. The prepositions are really important. I know they, we're trying, but I'm trying to get an exact, and this may not be the time to ask, that's what I want to make sure I'm right.
Well, let's ask
the
again
agenda.
so that we can,
Okay, so I'm trying to find out the AGI under 60. And in statute, it says it very differently, so the prepositions are important. So under 60, and then between, so that's the important word, between 60 and 75, not under 75.
No, I think that's.
That's in here. 2,548.
No, because under 75 could still include under 60.
Under 60, it says 35,772.
Right, but right in next
Two
one.
says 2548.
But what does it say for wave 2?
2548.
No,
So
what is the
you're,
language?
so you're thinking that because a person who's under 60 could apply during wave 2, they would actually be granted during wave 2, so they may be, so you may get a dozen extra people that are under 60.
I thought we asked that at one of the previous board meetings, and it was clarified that that was, so.
No, Madam Chair, they told me that under 60 can still apply in wave 2. So I'm trying to separate out, titrate, how many under 60s were presented grants in wave 2. So I want to know, I'm trying to find out exactly.
okay, we're not gonna have that answer right this
I
minute,
know.
but we'll, no.
Do you
it's
see what I'm
noted.
asking?
Yep, I do.
And then in wave 3, how many were over 75?
So maybe per wave, we could get a breakdown of every level.
Yeah, I want exact, like those exact numbers.
So we'll,
That's
the
why I asked
the numbers
you
are
to email.
available and we can query it, we can.
Yeah, because I think we're doing, because we really brought that up at the last work session with the senator, and I think we're doing a better job. Because that was important to people, I think we're doing a better job at that lower AGI than we think we are. We're just not extrapolating that number. Does that make sense, Jen? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we are just about 2 minutes away. Okay. Oh, perfect. So, yes, now.
So
Yeah.
the numbers we have, is it? So there's the time between when we open waves. But are these who qualified under the income for each wave? Like, I think that's the just like, well, I guess it just doesn't say. Are we saying these are the ones that were funded during that time frame of the wave? Or are they the ones that qualified under the income?
Heather is going to be available here in a couple of, or soon. And so why don't we hold that question for when she's on there, where she's the manager of the program, and she'll be able to. Okay. Yeah. Let's before we like on the spot put out something that later. we weren't sure about, so. All right, okay, so we have got Megan Barber on the line with us from Odyssey, and we've got about 25 minutes with her. Megan, I think once you start talking, then we will see you.
Okay, can you see me?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome virtually to Idaho, and we're happy to have you here. Knowing that we've got about 25 minutes with her, I know that the panel has got some questions, but maybe you could give us a general overview of how you've been managing the program for our state.
Absolutely, and hi everyone, and my name is Megan Barber. I represent Odyssey, and Madam Chair, to your point, I would like to provide some opening remarks before we get into the questions, which is what you said there. So hello again. On behalf of Odyssey, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to share more information about our work to serve students and families in Idaho with you today. Odyssey believes that all families should be able to access high quality education. And you said, welcome to Idaho, but let me tell you that, Idaho already has a special place in my heart. I actually grew up in Idaho. My father is a teacher in Meridian. My mom works at Boise State. And, I myself am a parent to 2 young kids. So I know the powerful impact that education has on, shaping our children's futures. And really this impact is the inspiration behind Odyssey. Odyssey is a technology platform that helps states across the country scale education funding programs like Empowering Parents, so that low and middle income and all families can have easy and modern access to academic resources to support and further educate their children. We are so proud to be the technology vendor for the Empowering Parents program and are working closely with Governor Little and the Idaho State Board of Education to help this landmark program change lives and support the local economy across Idaho. Odyssey's technology-enabled solutions have helped nearly 50,000 students access life-changing educational resources with easy-to-use and modern tools, all while supporting local businesses. Our technology provides parents an online marketplace where they can buy goods and services from approved local vendors that help support their children's educational journey. We are committed to working closely with the board and the state to ensure that the program is run smoothly, that it prevents fraud, and that it operates in accordance with the governing laws and guidance. When questions or concerns arise about purchases, we work closely with the board and state to swiftly address them. Additionally, we diligently monitor and report any potentially irregular purchases to the board, and of course, under their direction, have the ability to reverse certain transactions on our marketplace. Moreover, we promptly adjust our marketplace to align with the board's guidelines as they are updated, ensuring transparency and adherence to the highest standards. The recent review from the State Board of Education team found that the overwhelmingly majority of program purchases were eligible and approved. Over 99% of all purchases made were found to be necessary or contributing to the success of a student here in Idaho. It is very important to us that we provide the absolute best experience for families and our partners in government. Our solutions, like the Empowering Parents Marketplace, are designed by e-commerce veterans with decades of experience, ensuring that we are bringing the best technology that we can to Idaho's families. Additionally, we are continuing to update our platform and share new resources in response to the feedback that we get. So for example, we recently added a feature to designate vendors local to Idaho on the marketplace. So that way families can choose to support local businesses. You know, and we've heard several of your suggestions here, and we are very excited to be executing on our plan to implement those suggestions. The Empowering Parents program is a transformative force within the state, and we are privileged to play a role in its realization. We would like to extend our thanks to Governor Little and his staff, the Idaho State Board of Education, the Empowering Parents Parent Advisory Panel, the vendors participating in the program, and then, of course, most importantly, to all the Idaho families that are engaging with the program for their partnership and role in helping ensure its success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan. I'm just going to dive in to questions. And so panel members, Holly, your mute button is off. I don't know if that's the universal sign, but did you have a question for Megan?
Sure, yeah, I'll start. I think that it's already been said once here. We're just wondering if there have been changes midstream to the program. I'll give you an example. If there is a vendor that was allowed at some time and then it's no longer been allowed, and have you received guidance along the way at some point that has changed? What has caused those different applications to occur?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. You know, Odyssey is extremely committed to closely working with the state board to make sure that we are, you know, following the guidance that comes from it and then implementing based on the guidance that we have. So not sure if that answers your question. I'd be happy to follow up in an email afterwards as far as, you know, how it's all flowed so far, but yeah.
Well, my question is really, like, I think Amazon is a good example. We know that vendor was allowed in the beginning and was not allowed later. So was there guidance that you received along the way to suspend that vendor, or how were the decisions made?
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for clarifying. So Amazon, yes, was on the platform in the beginning, and I hate to say this, but I actually came on when it was going off of the platform. So I would have to actually talk to our team internally and understand the reasons behind that and come back to you with that answer.
Okay.
Thank you. Barb? Look like you were. I'm reading all the nonverbal cues.
Hi, Megan. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have this in front of you, but we have heard from some parents who have received communication from Odyssey about purchases that aren't eligible or might not have been eligible. Do you have maybe what an email is actually stating? Because we're just hearing what they're saying to us, but I'm just wondering, do you have anything that we can see exactly what an email says or looks like that you can distribute to parents on those ineligible or possibly ineligible purchases?
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely follow up afterwards and, you know, give a snapshot of what that email is asking. But, you know, we definitely trying to just work with the parents to give them the best shot at explaining the purchases. So happy to follow up afterwards with a snapshot.
Megan, I have another question, if you don't mind. I think the largest amount of feedback that I'm getting, and my own personal concern as well, is that the platform was originally designed to be a menu of services that were pre-approved to eliminate the risk of fraud. So those parents have purchased items from the menu. And so can you explain to me how it is that there are so many ineligible purchases at this point? How did that occur?
Sorry, could you say that one more time? I'm going to blame a big storm we have coming through, but my internet kind of cut a little bit.
No problem. So the platform was designed to be pre-approved purchases. So how is it possible that we have so many purchases that are ineligible or invalid?
Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers up in front of me, but overall, I will say that the overall program has been very successful, right? We're looking at 99%, which is great. There's a small number that we're having to dive into and look into more just to better understand the details of the purchase, because sometimes we just there could be a missing part to the whole thing. So we are diligently working with the Board of Education to understand those purchases and help these parents out. So
okay, I don't think that quite answers my question. I'm just wondering how it's possible to have these ineligible purchases if the platform is designed to only allow eligible purchases.
So I would that's something great question. Honestly, I will have to come back to you and get a response from our team to that. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you a correct and clear answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Steve.
Megan, can you hear me okay?
Yes, it's a little far away, but I'll just lean in a little bit more.
This is Amy Henry, I'll speak up. So maybe you've answered this, but I'm gonna ask one more time. How is it then, and if you can do this without needing to follow up with us, I would really appreciate it. How is it that Odyssey as a contractor is determining both in the past and currently eligible versus ineligible items?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we work closely with the state. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So we work with the state board and use the approved eligible and ineligible expenses list in determining the items that we can sell and then go from there.
Okay, Megan, if I can follow up with that, then please, do you have a list then that the state board gives you that has eligible and ineligible items that were in the past? And then do you have a current list? Because it seems that now in real time, these eligible items are changing. Like, for example, tutoring in real time now has changed to an ineligible item.
Yeah, I can definitely, we have a list and I'd be happy to share that and talk with the team to get, retroactive information for you.
Madam Chair, if I may, one more. Okay, Megan, to follow up, then I would really appreciate that. If you could get that to us right away, that would be helpful. If you could then speak to currently tutoring, are you aware of that going from an eligible to an ineligible item lately?
So my understanding was that all the eligible and ineligible items are currently being reviewed by the panel to make a final determination as far as if they are approved or not. And then from there, we will, move forward with guidance.
We're gonna when we get to the appeals process, we'll have Jen add to that statement to go through some of that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I have Jody. Yeah, I don't know if it's directed to her or to the board then.
So I was under the impression that even though it is supposed to be an eligible only menu, that the items or each transaction was being approved before it was being approved and moved through. Is that true?
I believe, Megan, maybe you can correct me, I think the punch-through system is effective among all vendors as of August 1st.
Were you able to hear that, Megan?
No, I apologize. I was not able to hear.
Yeah, she also has one of those voices.
I do. Megan, can you just clarify? I think the punch-out system that Odyssey implemented across all vendors, I think it was effective across all vendors, I believe as of August 1st, but can you just clarify the date on that?
Yes, that date sounds right. I was gonna say, end of July was when it was implemented. I would, to get the exact date, I'd have to go look back and see what that exact date was, but I think we're aligned. I believe it was the end of July, so.
So what exactly does that mean, the punch out system?
Yeah, that means that each order that is processed is a pause is implemented. So we have a team of trained individuals that are reviewing the transaction to make sure that it is in line with the allowable expenses.
And about how long does that process take?
48-hour timeline is 48-hour business, I should say, is what we're working with right now.
Just as a quick insert here, when we do talk about the appeals, we will talk about that, what you've addressed, the people who were told the grant was awarded, but now their purchase is in limbo. We'll talk about that.
Megan, are you under the impression that this panel will be making decisions about something that are currently paused?
So my understanding of what is going on is that the panel is reviewing the approved, not approved items, some of these ones that were in question, and making a determination, such as backpacks, for example, right? Or if you have the ballet class and then the shoes, is that allowed? That's my understanding.
Okay, and those items parents are all waiting on those items currently, correct?
That would be my understanding of it. Yes, is that right now those would not be allowed through.
Okay, thank you.
We've got Jen that can add to that. Knowing that Megan, we've got her for about another 8 minutes. Are there additional questions for Megan right now? And we've got a list, and so anyway, let's see, Laura, then Jason, and then we'll go back to Jody.
I was wondering if Megan could describe the vendor process to get onto the platform.
Okay. Megan, can you go through the process? We want it detailed, but also it doesn't have to be lengthy, just the general steps when someone believes they have a product, a service, etc., that can go on to your platform.
Yeah, so we actually made oh, sorry, did someone say something?
You're good.
Okay, we actually made a video that talks through that and have some documentation I'd be happy to follow up with afterwards. But I can give a very high level overview. Again, I will follow up afterwards with a more detailed breakdown, because I always just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. But as vendors do come in and request to be in the marketplace, it is reviewed. So, we are looking LLC, make sure they are a real business, right? Looking at their offerings, making sure price gouging, want to double check that, right? And looking through all of the information that they're submitting to make sure that it is a good vendor and that it will be a good partnership and hopefully provide services that Idaho parents are going to really value. And then once they go through that vetting process, which again, we will follow up afterwards with all the details of it. That's when it's only, after that they're actually allowed into the marketplace. And again, I will follow up to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I do know that they go through a vetting process, and I do know that we are checking a lot of things to make sure that it is a good vendor and that they'll be taking care of Idaho families. So,
Jason.
Okay, I'm going to give this one more shot. How are items getting on the platform that are not approved?
So again, I like service offerings are to my understanding, happy again to follow up, but our team is reviewing all items and working closely with the state to make sure that the offerings provided are allowed. And again, we are reviewing the ones that currently that were selected as not approved and going through those items individually to look at the full picture of what is going on.
Back to Joni.
Is there any, you said that you mentioned price gouging. My question is, what is to deter a vendor from bumping their prices in the system? I guess.
Yeah, great question. So we have an individual with a lot of experience that is reviewing all items on the marketplace to ensure that vendors are not doing that and that, parents' money can go as far as it can.
Any more questions for Megan? We've got about 4 minutes left with her.
Thank you, Megan, for your time. If nobody else has questions, I would love to get back to our discussion about feedback.
Holly, we do. Laura's got a quick question.
Okay, great.
Idaho company designation, it sounds like there's who's vetted, like making sure that the state or like the city for those companies are true, like, is there extra vetting for the Idaho designation piece of it?
I think I heard you. Was the question, how are we determining the Idaho local vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I will, y'all are probably gonna, but I do need to get the exact determination. I know that we are looking at addresses, but happy to follow up through email with exactly what we're doing to determine that process and give someone that Idaho symbol.
Megan, knowing that we've made a list for you, what's a reasonable turnaround time for you to be able to share answers?
Yeah, well, I will, can I respond to the state and let them know once I've been able to talk to the team and get the team's insight of how quickly, but we will work to get it as quickly as we can turned around.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm going to look on the room, look on the screen. It doesn't appear we've got any more questions for you. Again, thank you for making some time to visit with us, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you all. You have a great rest of your day.
Take care. Right. Anything further that we want to share on our public comment? Not public comment, but our feedback. Did we cover, Holly? Did you have something that you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from every panelist. So I think Courtney and I are the only ones who haven't shared yet. But I really wanted to just discuss the question about the setup of the platform and the feedback that we're getting from parents or hearing from parents via email and seeing those in the Facebook group, as well as my own concerns as a parent who participates in the program. My kids are currently enrolled in the program, and I'm just concerned how the ineligible purchases can even be made. And I think that the statute is set up so that it really can eliminate fraud and that parents can order from this menu of purchases. And it sounds to me like there's an expectation that our panel will be deciding whether things are eligible or ineligible. And I'm very uncomfortable with that as a panelist for 2 reasons. Number one, I don't think that we should be making any recommendations on the program in real time. I think these should all be future recommendations for the next cycle, unless there's a specific request by the Department of Ed or the state board. And so I requested clarification, and I hoped that would be in the packet materials for this meeting today, but I would just request that that's in the next packet, that it's part of public record. The letter that I wrote and then the response to my letter, which is really just the only indication that we really received that we had a specific request was in the letter to the governor dated August 2nd. And part of that letter says the parent advisory panel is considering these categories and is expected to make recommendations to the board in September. If the additional categories are adopted by the board, the purchases made in these categories will be considered eligible purchases retroactively and no further action will be taken. So I'm very concerned by the notion that parents are being suspended for a certain purchase, waiting on a response from us, but we really haven't received a formal request to provide a recommendation about that. And I would say that we should not be providing recommendations about that. And the second reason is because the appeals process to me is very clearly outlined in statute. And let's just say for illustration that we all decide backpacks should not be eligible. Well, then this, pursuant to statute, the state board would go and give a finding to those parents who have bought backpacks and say, sorry, you purchased an ineligible item. Here's the repercussions that are also outlined in statute. The appeals process says that that parent can appeal to us, the panel. And so if you're asking us to make a decision now about backpacks before there's any appeals, and then the parent brings the appeal, to me, that completely defeats the purpose of the appeals process, and it doesn't value the integrity of the appeals process. So it's concerning to me that both the contractor and the governor and everyone, the parents, are all thinking that we are going to make recommendations about these categories when, you know, we've had a discussion about them, but that I don't know that any of us are on the same page about making recommendations about those categories. If there's a specific request, which in the response letter, I did not see a specific request. We'd like you to determine whether these are or are not eligible. You know, we would need to address that specific request. So that's the parent feedback that I've heard most is, why are you know, having us submit more information? Why are these purchases ineligible at all? And I share the same concern, and it's probably my biggest concern overall. So that's all I have to say. Courtney, I'd love to hear from you too.
Thank you, Holly. Courtney, you're on mute.
Sorry. So my concern is there's a master list out there that's dictating what's being put on the site originally. And we've never seen that list. So there must be itemization of what has actually been decided is eligible and ineligible. So are we, is one of our responsibilities looking at this list and adding things to this list? So that is something that was new to me, that there was actually some sort of document that's been produced dictating what Odyssey is approving and denying originally. And we haven't been privy to that piece of information. So if backpacks weren't on that list, they never should have been able to be purchased originally. And if they need to be on the list, are we tasked with recommendations of what should be on the list? That was something that was concerning to me as she was talking.
Thank you. We'll have Jen and Heather, I think they can address some of that when we get into their portion or what they can. And I believe at least Matt Freeman, I think, was on, maybe he's coming back. But anyway, let's do this unless there's something else here.
Joni, question. We're in a contract with Odyssey, and that goes until through the next year, or what?
August 8th of 2024.
So if we wanted to make any changes outside of using their vendor system, nothing would take effect.
I guess it would depend on what the terms of the contract are, but I would believe that if this group were to make recommendations and if you, and we'll get into this, and we'll take just like a quick 5-10 minute break, but on the recommendations, the way we've broken out what we've collected from your conversations, specific things related to the contractor, that this group could make suggestions, easier process for vendors. There could be things that go to the board, and there may be some room to do some of those things. Without looking, we'll save that for Jen as well.
With the contractor have to want to pay. So we shouldn't, there's no way for this board to suggest a contractor or something like that, because it's a state organization, you have to go out to bid, you have to pick the ones.
But I think your point is there room to make changes with the service that's being provided?
Personally, I feel like there's a way to have fraud in any system. So I don't really understand why we're trying to micromanage the parents so hard, when I'm just gonna say that I feel like this is a welfare program, and I'm not a huge advocate of that. But that being said, the funds are dedicated, we're giving them out. So why are we not trusting our parents to use the money to the best of their ability? Because just because they bought a computer for their son doesn't mean their son's actually gonna get it. So I guess I'm waiting for more feedback to be convinced that this is the best way, but I don't understand why we wouldn't just give the parents the $1,000 and say, use this to the best of your ability, get the biggest bang for your buck, and give the money to, or however you're gonna help your kid, because like I said, you can find fraud in any system. So I hear a lot of feedback of the prices. I've been on hold for 2 weeks and now I'm approved, but the price went up $200, and I don't understand that to begin with, but I don't feel like that's the best use of your money. And I know from in our area, there isn't a lot. I mean, people would want to use it on like internet, and there's not really any tutoring services in our area. So they literally are searching for somewhere to spend the money on things that they don't necessarily need, but they're trying to find a way to spend it to when they could be using it to pay their internet bill, or they could be using it to purchase the curriculum they want, but it's not available and they can't get that vendor on, or.
I think I'm gonna just, I guess, summarize what I'm hearing from you. I think it touches into what I've heard this group say, just the more robust opportunities. So when you do get that money, you're not limited to well, I guess I have to buy a laptop,
Right?
Because that's the only thing that works. And so maybe there's a way for us to bridge that. Yes, we want to trust the parents, while there's accountability to the taxpayer, while opening up the program in a way that a parent can say, hey, that's what's going to help my kid. I'm hoping that's where we can get to with recommendations.
Because in the very beginning, we were told not to go back to receipts and reimbursements.
Or, well, I wouldn't say so much told not to, but I think you heard that it was a more complicated process that wasn't a priority, but that can be something that this group recommends. The board may or may not adopt. We don't know what recommendations they're going to get, but the charge of the panel is to put the recommendations forward that you think will make the best of the program. Like Jason was saying, we don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. And so what do we think is going to create the best environment for parents who are going to be able to access the money this next round with our Idaho taxpayer ongoing dollars. So thank you for your comments. Jason, did you have something before we take a break?
Yeah, sure. I do really quick. Sure. I think also on that note, I don't think everything has to be a broad brush. Like if we wanted to make a recommendation that that we would like reimbursement just for internet, that seems to be a huge problem. It's not like we have to make a broad brush that everything needs to be. Right.
Completely.
On that
Yep,
note.
I think that's a great example of maybe there are areas that, hey, here are things that it's just easier to get reimbursed for than trying to say, is my internet provider on the marketplace? Is it? All right, well, before we take too many more steps into this agenda item, which we're there next, why don't we take just a quick little 10-minute break? And then we'll come back and start looking over what we've compiled. So we're 10:35, so we will go into recess and come back at 10:45. 2. Yep, in 8 hours. 10 minutes, 2:45.
Oh, sorry, that. One more lightning
All right, timeliness is important. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks. Hopefully those online also got to get up for a minute, walk around. Moving on to the recommendations, we do have this as an action item. There's two things that I'd like to say before we get into the discussion. These are a compilation of what my notes reflect from your conversation, what Allison's notes, other team members that have been monitoring this. And so there may be something on here that you thought of today or that we missed. We recognize that. We're not saying this is all inclusive and that we got every single thing that you're ever going to think of. But
have to approve today.
well, we don't have to, but we do have it listed as an action item. So I just want to make sure, so if we want to, we're able to, and I think there may be some you wait on, some you act on. We can figure that out, but I just wanted you to know that this was us saying, here's what we've heard from you. And then the second part of it is, you may not like how it is or prefer maybe how some of them are combined or how they're laid out. That's okay too. It's always easier to critique than to create. And so this is our starting place of, here's what we heard you talk about in the categories of, here's what the appeals recommendations might look like. Here's what contractor recommendations could look like. And we can discuss that. And then just, I guess I said two things, but related to that, I would add, recognizing that we do have another meeting scheduled in Lewiston. We are still in the process of collecting feedback and input. And so we may decide, or you may decide as voting members of the panel, that some of these things you're ready to act on today. We can do that. We may come back and finish some of them in September or add to based on additional comment. And so I wanted to lay that out there or put it out there so that you know that we've got room to work with that. All right. So with that said, yes, Jason.
Can I make a motion?
A motion is always in order. I'm curious.
I move that the EPAP recommend to add category G, educational programs or extracurricular activities offered for a fee or pursuant to a contract by a school district, public school charter, or career and technical education program to any students, provided that such students may not be counted for the purposes of calculating public school enrollment, if approved by the governing board of the said institution.
Okay. And then the motion, can I have that so we
Yes.
can have it in our notes? Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you. Okay.
I have a question for the maker of the motion. Would you stand for a question?
Yeah,
Let's have a second.
yeah, let's get a second first. Okay. All right, so now that we have a second to the motion, now we can ask the questions. So Holly.
Jason, I wondered, is this the agenda item that you asked to put on the agenda for today? Is it the same?
Right.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
You're adding it as
It's an action item. So this is a recommendation under the recommendation empowered parents. So under 4, I made a motion as an action item.
Okay, to add G to
The categories.
stats legislature.
and so I
So we're
don't,
going to the categories. I just want to make
yeah,
sure
so
everybody-
yeah,
That's
so
what- that's
we're in the
what-
categories. And so the motion would then, I'm gonna speak for you, but you tell me if I.
We just have a million papers here, so I want to get.
Yeah, so
This has nothing to do with the papers.
I know, but I want to look at the categories. and
Okay,
get to
okay.
G.
Yeah, there is no sheet.
I know, but there's
So
A, B, C, D, E, F.
So the papers that, or the agenda item that we're going to would be this, where it says table of recommendations. That's what we're going to reference for the discussion. And so Jason has made a specific motion that he would like to have action on, whether or not these recommendations or new ones or any go forward today. Did I understand that? Okay. So I would draw your attention just quickly, this as we're discussing the motion. That is it. It was So there is something.
So with the discussion, Madam Chair, can we add the statute number to that?
What?
Motion? For G, because it falls in the statute, right? 33-103.
So essentially, on statute F, it is allowed.
There's 5 statutes. I'm sorry, just to clarify the recommendation.
Where's your, so F, other educational expenses and services approved by the board upon recommendation from the parents advisory panel. So as of F, we can ask for other categories to be put into this statute.
Which statute are we on? Is this statute 33?
33, 10.
1030.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. G.
Yeah.
So that's our recommendation.
So that's the recommendation,
Gotcha.
to add a G to the statute because of F.
So it'd be 33-1030 subsection 3. Subsection.
G.
After 3. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Laura, did I see you? Or maybe you're just going.
So I would speak to the motion real quick.
Thank you.
So this motion is developed between the fact that the statute where it says non-public school students can use for fees. There is no way that there's ever going to be enough of a need for a school district to go through and become a vendor if only non-public school students can use those fees. But if we allow any student to use those fees, then places like Rigby and Rexburg and Rupert and Marsing can have better services locally with their school district that can have options for homeschool students and private school students and public school students to get tutoring by a certified teacher, funded through the state and through the school district funding as a flow-through fund. So then it will go directly to the teacher in the state. It'll help with retention of teachers, it'll help with student achievement, and it will be a very good thing for low-income families that would never be able to afford a tutor, and now they're getting a tutor with really very good credentials. That's where it is a bit more.
Thank you, Jason. I think that what Jason's motion is a more detailed explanation on the program administration. If you look on this page of 3.0, we have a 3.1 accessing services. Again, capturing what the panel has been talking about, allow for all students, public and non-public, to access services through LEA. And is that correct?
It is kind of correct. It's a little bit different. I've talked to Mr. Freeman about this. I've talked to the ISBA. We worked with my own superintendent to develop this notion to make it work with being able to pass the ethics spell test and to be able to make sure that everybody's aware of it that is in control of the district. So that's the main.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Laura, then Jen, then Amy.
Can you clarify, LEAs are?
Local education agency, so that would be a local district.
Okay.
Yep.
And those are public.
Yes, which would include charter schools.
Yeah.
They are public.
Yeah. My second question is there a reason to add it as a second, like its own designation versus changing
Yes,
and replacing the word non-public school with
because what I was told, changing and replacing the word would require a legislative action.
Statutory change. Is that what Jen was going to get at?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think I was just gonna say, I might recommend that you consider making the motion about adding the category under category F. The State Board of Education can actually add a section G to the statute. So you would have to, if the board were to consider this, it would have to be added, list of items the board could approve under section.
So I would make that recommendation. That'd be okay for a second.
Okay, so hang on just one second. Jason has made that as an amendment. It's been seconded by Barb. And so now that's what we're going to discuss.
So that was my discussion. So 2 things actually, and I was gonna ask Matt, but I didn't know if he was back on here yet. but Jen could probably answer this. We were referring, and I was trying to find my notes really quick, last week, there's another piece of legislation, Jen, that we were talking about, where there needed to be a legislative change also. So there's two parts here to what I'm about to say. So G would be a recommendation to the sponsors of this legislation for future. Plus also there's another piece of the statute that we would have to make. We could make a recommendation to that needed to be changed.
Trying to recall what that was.
I wrote it down. I just was trying to frantically, at 30, no.
Jen, do you recall?
Wasn't there another piece in?
I don't recall
That we were referring to.
specifically which statute you were referencing. But we can, like, as we go through, if you're gonna talk through these items.
Yeah.
I'm happy to listen to what that
Right.
would be.
But we
Would-
could look
would
into
require-
that later for a recommendation for future legislation change. That's what I was saying. So there's, Matt was talking about it last week.
Okay.
So that's all I was gonna say is that. that would
Well,
be a
I think
future
Jen's
amendment.
suggestion as we go through, if there's something that necessitates a, statutory change, that the board can't do that, but can recommend that the board initiate, whatever process. Holly, and then we'll go to Barb.
Thank you. It's kind of along the same lines, but I think that the last part of that after the comma, where it says, provided that such students may not be counted for purposes of calculating public school enrollment. I think if you're wanting all students included, that you probably don't want that last part. But again, those are legislative details that I think are probably really important to work out with attorneys. So my discussion on the motion would just be to say that perhaps we I'll make a substitute motion. I would make a substitute motion that we recommend that the State Board of Education work with the legislature to expand this to non-public students instead of, or to all students instead of just non-public students.
Okay, hang on. Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah, I was gonna second that.
Hold on, that motion on the floor.
Okay,
But
thank
she's
you.
making a substitute. She's amending your motion.
Correct.
Substitute, okay, hang
Yeah,
on a
she
second.
had to amend it, right?
All right, well, what was that? No, you're good. Okay, let me think here. So I think we can go forward with this. We can vote on or see if there's a second to the substitute and then come back to, because you amended your motion. You didn't withdraw. You
No,
just
that's
amended.
correct. Yes.
Okay, so is there a second to the substitute motion?
I'll actually second that and I'll tell you why.
Okay. So there is a second to the substitute motion. Amy?
Yeah, I wish there was an attorney here, and here's why I think this is very important. And if there's an attorney here to tell me why I'm wrong, I'd really like that. I think this is a great idea. I'm totally behind this, 100%. A lot of reasons why I'm behind it 100%. I'm concerned that us doing this is usurping state statute. And that makes me
How so?
very nervous because it says in state statute, we're trying to do something that it says in state statute.
Well, we're not changing state statute. The motion is for a recommendation to the board.
But it's
That's it. And the board can't do anything in it.
But-
All they do is act to move forward with a legislator.
Okay, so I guess, Madam Chair, what I'm asking is it okay for us to recommend something that contradicts state statute?
Yeah. Yeah, you're recommending that there's a change to statute. You can absolutely recommend that. You're not recommending that someone break the law. You're recommending that the law be changed to be able to open it up to more students.
Okay, as long as that's all we're doing. Because
Yeah.
okay, that's what I'm asking. I guess
Yeah.
maybe that's what I'm asking,
Yeah.
because I feel like we're making I guess there's been so much cloudy confusion around all of what we're doing here and what's been happening with the eligible, ineligible. Do you see what I'm saying? That I feel like they're asking us to make decisions on eligible and ineligible.
Again, everything that this panel does is 100% a recommendation. You could recommend that the money be used to send kids to Mars. You really could. You could,
May not take the right.
right. And so there's no like legal or illegal way you could recommend that someone break the law, but it's a recommendation. And that's not what this is about. No one's breaking a law by recommending that the law be changed. I mean, that's the whole
No
legislative
matter
process.
what, they give us the power to recommend anything we want in section F.
Well, the
Okay.
state board of education or the legislature would certainly run any idea they have through legal counsel and all of those things to make sure that there's no.
But Odyssey is already doing the things that we're recommending as we're recommending them, and I guess that's where my concern falls.
So
Does that
let's,
make sense?
yes, so for the purposes of our recommendations right now, put on the hat of this is moving forward.
Okay,
So let's have a clear line to say, what we're looking at for recommendations is how we believe the program should be administered from today on.
okay.
And then we'll get into what's going to happen with, or how we believe things could process with people that are already in it. And it is messy. But for the purposes of the action that we have today, if you choose to take the action, we really need to think of it as, here's the recommendations of how to do it moving forward from August 17th on. Therefore, going back to what we recommend, there isn't a right or a wrong recommendation. It's just what you want to recommend. And so, Holly, just as a point of clarification, your motion is different than Jason's how?
Because the last part of the verbiage that Jason has included has the verbiage that says, provided that such students may not be counted for purposes of calculating public school enrollment. So if if students are not counted for public school enrollment, then that sort of exempts them, and it defeats the purpose of the word any. So my argument is that we should allow attorneys and legislators to make the actual verbiage changes as needed, as appropriate, but that what our recommendation is that it should be all students, any students, not this exact verbiage.
Jason?
Okay, this exact verbiage was in the statute already, for one thing. So also, the reason why we kept it there is if a student from, let's say, Bruto Grandview, they don't have the program, but Mountain Home has that program, they can go to Mountain Home and get tutored there through the school district. So they wouldn't have to be in their own school district to get enrolled. So that would not count for enrollment as a public schools person.
Right.
That's why that verbiage is in there.
And also that would be applicable for students who are homeschooled, that you're not counting that student doesn't then get counted on the attendance, the roll books.
So I guess, Madam Chair, if what you're saying is true and this is for going forward, then why not just keep the original motion of Jason and have G?
Because we need to have F there. That was the amendment so that it fits
You can
in.
depend on what you want to do. If you want the legislature to.
Well, we
do that,
could,
maybe
yeah,
just-
if the board, we can recommend to the board.
But do you see
Now,
what I'm saying?
but I agree with you in the beginning, but if we're recommending to the board, and the board can make this change without going to the legislature, then that is the change I would rather have on mine. Because the board will act 5 months faster than the legislature. And then we can actually serve students this year as opposed to waiting until April.
As part of the board's consideration of the motion, of the recommendation, they'll consult legal counsel.
For sure.
They have to, yeah.
Madam Chair, so, but if my concern is irrelevant, and I'm putting that respectfully, saying it doesn't matter, and that's what I hear you say, then it's moot point, then the original motion should be.
Could be the same, but
But that's why I'm concerned. Does that make sense? That you needing to amend your original motion is my concern.
Well, he was just amending it to fit the section of the statute currently.
Do you understand?
Again,
what I'm
a
saying?
recommendation.
I know what you're saying, but the reason why I'm okay with amending it the way I did is understanding what the board has requested. And being able to fix it either way. Both ways will work. One way probably will be 5 months faster if we approve this recommendation.
And if the board accepts the recommendation, and if the board talks to their dad, and if the board.
Yeah, because everything we say
Right.
doesn't, it just pushes it
Right,
forward.
right.
And then, so that's my
And then it
goal,
has
is to
to go
get this argument to the next step. And then the lawyers can find out from there.
So we have 2 motions on the floor. We'll start with the most recent one, which was a substitute motion. And it was moved and seconded. And so,
I need to speak.
okay,
I do not think this motion should pass. I think the substitute motion, we need to fail so that we can pass the original motion with the amendment. And then we can get this item off of our plate.
Tell me exactly why again, please, because I'm still in the weeds on this, and I'm.
And you can vote no on it. You can vote for the substitute motion. This is where I'm at on it. I think the substitute motion is in direct conflict to what the original motion is stating, to make it very clear what I'm trying to get done.
We all want the same thing. I
I
want the
agree
same
with
thing you
that.
do.
Yes.
I do not want to mess with state statute, though. That's my
we're not,
concern.
we can't. I mean, again, this does nothing to change state statute, nor will any of our recommendations. Again, they go to the board. And so, and I'm not trying to advocate for Jason over Holly or vice versa, but you know, that's why I asked, okay, what are the differences? What I'm hearing is that, Jason, your motion provides an avenue that would allow the board to act upon something if it were legal, that would not, that may not but may not have to go through the legislative process, expediting the ability to do what Holly's motion is trying to accomplish, which is open it up to more students. Did I get that?
So if I may speak to the motion, to the substitute motion, I think the biggest difference is that Jason's has specific language that he would like us to use. My motion does not have specific language. It has a concept. And so if we communicate the concept and allow the legislators and the state board to work together to create the accurate language, then let's say that they think this language, Jason's language, is perfect. Then there's nothing in the substitute motion that would prevent the state board from using the language Jason has put forth if they believe it's correct. But the reverse is not true. If it is incorrect in any way, then our recommendation is not adopted because it's not correct.
I think the recommendation is stated in here enough that we're trying to provide this opportunity. The recommendation would be to provide the opportunity to to public and non-public students in the most efficient way possible, direct the board to pursue whatever that legal avenue is. Then the board will decide whether or not they want to, how they're going to do it, what the attorneys say, and what that looks like.
And I need a point of clarification, if I could. Do you have both motions typed up?
Yep. This.
Okay. I know because of teaching for so long, Jason, that the part of the payment to the school districts, that is important because we don't want school districts double. That's why they got that there. They don't want the school districts getting paid double, twice for the same thing. I'm assuming.
The part that, the reason why we want to put flow-through money through the school district is so a teacher doesn't have to set up a 1099 to become a vendor. They can be a vendor with the district.
Yes.
And then the money, which is already set up to get paid by the state board or by the Department of Ed, goes through, and then it's a separate fund.
Yeah, you said that better than I did. So the teacher gets paid by the district, then they get paid by this. So it doesn't look like double.
Right.
Yes, but
Right.
it would be a line item. So like Marcy, for example, we have 100 accounts that the board looks through every single month. This would be an account, our parents, and then there would, when they were funded because of let's say, a co-curricular fee.
Right.
It would say draw for co-curricular fee, and then it would fund that student's co-curricular fee. That's how it works. And so like in that situation, it would be the same with the teacher. Once the board decides that they would do this, they would set up a pay schedule, which we are working on ours, to where all the teachers' fees are in writing and they're the same. So there's no surprise or no gifting of money. And it would go right through.
But it's separate from their salary schedule.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's, I guess that's.
It
what
would,
I'm
it
trying
would
to
be,
say.
it would not be contracted through the district.
So
You
this is
couldn't,
just-
you couldn't even have a supplemental.
That was where I was.
Okay, yeah, it wouldn't be a supplemental contract. It would be independent.
Because Jason's board has gone further down the road, I think that's why he's providing more details. Holly's motion, as she said, it is more broad. Here's the recommendation, work it out according to, what works. Is that, Holly, did I say that?
Yeah, that's correct.
So your example of the two school districts, the student goes to Marsing School District, but then goes over to Homedale School District. Homedale School District is not going to receive payment for that student being there because the teacher's tutoring.
Yes.
The teacher's going to get the
Yes, that's true.
tutoring.
It would be flow through money. So flow through money, and so there's certain monies that the legislature sets aside
Right.
for teachers that the district does not touch. It's called flow through money.
Right.
And so when we get that fund drops right down into the teacher's salary. This would be another line item on the teacher's salary, tutoring fees, and then that's how.
But wouldn't count as seat time. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
No.
this is
And that's
separate
why
and
that
apart.
statement
That's
is
why
really
the-
important.
Yes, that's why that part was, making sure that was.
Right, I do think that part's important. So that was my point of clarification. Can we get both of these motions again? Stated?
Okay, so we can read, or I'll have Jason read. Holly, do you want to restate yours? Yeah, we're gonna
No.
vote on.
I think I'm just going to withdraw the substitute motion. I think we'll just vote on the amended original motion. Is that okay with everybody? Makes it easy.
Okay, all right, I don't think we need a second to withdraw. Do we? No.
Okay, so I move that the EPAP recommend to add a subsection of category F 33-1030, educational programs or extracurricular activities offered for a fee and pursuant to the contract by the school district, public charter school, or career and technical educational program to any student, provided that such student may not be counted for purposes of calculating public school enrollment, if approved by the governing body of said institution.
Is the seconder of the motion just stay, right, just making sure we're, okay. Laura.
So I get, if I go to District A, and now I'm getting tutoring services from B. If so because it says, provided that such student may not be counted, if I go to District B and I'm getting tutoring services from District B, I am counted for enrollment.
Not under this.
No,
Not
this,
under this program.
But does that, because it says that,
And you can't be counted. It's not a.
because you're not enrolled in that.
It's
district.
outside of contract time.
so, but if I am a school district child, so like I go to Madison School District, can I get tutoring services from Madison
Yes.
School District with these funds?
Yes.
But I just want to make sure that.
Yes, Jim.
I have the same question because it says that provided you're saying that the tutoring is not in any way tied to funding.
Tied to enrollment.
Tied to enrollment.
Yes.
All right, I'll call for a vote. Unless there's further discussion, I don't want to shut down the questions. All right, all in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Holly, were you, I'm sorry.
I was an aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. All right, I believe we are unanimous in favor. All right. Yeah.
Thank you. When you were clarifying earlier, you were stating that we are not changing anything in the past, that everything is going forward, but you said today's the date.
So what I meant, I was just using today's date as like,
I get it.
I think, so the recommendations that we make are for how the program could be administered with the program going forward.
So
So
23, 24 years.
yes, yeah. Just trying to make that,
I know,
That
but they're,
one, I
obviously
know.
it feels like it's running on real time, so
Yeah,
I
so
want
we're
them to
gonna-
say, as of 17,
Yeah.
this is what they said.
and I want to make sure that we have time to get into this gray area of, where the frustration with people that are currently in it, how it is that, we're gonna move forward. So looking at the time, and obviously we've got another meeting, could we, as a group, go through these, we got 4 areas, thank you, that we put together. And are there things on here that we could eliminate? That maybe things you don't care about anymore, you don't think rise to the level of the recommendation? Maybe you want to keep all of them, and that's up to you. But to kind of, whittle us down a little bit, let's start, and maybe we don't want to start with the appeals process. Why don't we, I know, let's start at number 3, program administration, because I think that what we just voted on, fits well there. I'm going to, I don't know, I mean, it could be, maybe it's just redundant, but, we could act on, the 3.1 if you wanted to, but taking a look here, I guess here are the questions. Is there something that this group believes could be removed? Is there something that you would like to add? And is there something on here that you would like to break apart or state differently? So just take a minute. Hopefully you guys, have thought through some of this before.
Question for the 2.
Yeah.
So it says allow for students residing in out-of-state border communities and attending an Idaho public or private school to access in foreign currency. So the 2 curriculum, or the 2, whatever, you have to have a kid pay through books, and you have to pay state, or you have to file state taxes. So I'm assuming parents work inside the state also and pay state taxes.
I don't think so. The way I heard the conversation for students that their whole family lives, in Oregon, but maybe they go to Brooklyn or Weiser. And so they, they send their child to school in Idaho, but they don't reside in Idaho.
And we've already awarded funds to them. How does that work when the 2 stipulations are you file state taxes and you have?
I don't think that it's file state taxes. I think it was just you send I don't know.
Any specific examples, but a student who lives in border community attends a traditional district, and maybe there's tuition agreement between this compensation. So that may be part of the story.
Courtney, Holly, are you able to hear okay?
We can look into that and see if there are.
It's really quiet. I'm having a hard time hearing.
Okay. We're gonna make Jen yell.
I guess my question on that is, or I mean, that's a concern to me because we are awarding Idaho state tax dollars
Absolutely.
to
Absolutely.
families. I'm not in agreement with if they live in Oregon and they go to Fruitland, they get funds. If their parents work in Idaho or in Fruitland and they pay an Idaho state tax, then they can be eligible. But if they do not, then they're ineligible.
So, yeah, Barb.
Yeah, I was looking at the statute and 1030 section 4, eligible student means a person in kindergarten through grade 12, whether a public school or non-public school student. So I think what we're asking is to maybe clarify and an active recommendation.
Okay. So,
Does that make sense?
so
Because if
again,
that is, that's just your perspective.
one second. Okay, hang on one second. I just, and I know motion's already, always in order, but let me, just give me 15 seconds here. Thinking again, whether or not you liked what, I mean, let's say you don't agree with what the practice is right now. Again, the recommendation is what you think it should be or what
Right.
you feel is appropriate moving
Moving
forward.
forward, we
So-
can't do anything about funds awarded already. I
Correct.
get that.
Okay,
That's-
all right, just making sure. All right, Amy, your motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion that our panel move to recommend that students must reside in Idaho to access empowering parent funds.
Is there a second to that motion?
Did you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yes, no?
Courtney, Holly?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, second to the motion. Discussion of the motion.
I can, if I can speak to it, Madam Chair. I was really careful in making sure that I could say that parents were, just because a lot of students I know reside with grandparents or aunt or uncle or maybe single even. It's really important that we're fiscally responsible with kind of taxpayer money. And so I know that we do have some students that do reside outside of Idaho. But that is going to mean that they are paying, for example, Oregon taxes. And we are rewarding them with Idaho taxpayer dollars. I know that we do have, I've done some research. I know that we do have, I think the right word here. No, we have like some contracts, agreements with bordering states, with schools. So we do have some Idaho kids that go, for example, maybe to an Oregon school, vice versa. And that's all worked out financially. I understand that, but this is a little different, I think. It's money coming straight from Idaho taxpayer dollars, and there's a limited amount of grants being awarded, and I think that taxpayer money from Idaho needs to go straight to taxpayer students who reside in Idaho.
Based on the earlier discussion and some nodding heads, I'm going to call for the vote. Unless there's an objection, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 We are checking a box here. All right. Looking down the list, is there something that you'd like to raise? Yes, Laura.
I would move that we recommend to adjust the timeline like we talked about to align with the start of the school year.
Okay. Is there
What was the motion? Sorry, I missed that.
It's basically 3.3 that's on the one, but to adjust the program timeline to line up with the academic school year, so that parents can have access to those funds with in August, right?
So that would be grant or application period is July, award in August, or what? June.
spring us, but so long as we just want to make sure that the funds are available prior to school starting,
Right, yeah.
right?
So recommending that we align it with that so that parents have it prior to with the school year starting.
And then we'll let board staff figure out the prime time for that, but with that recommendation. Holly, she did, I think. Holly?
To debate the motion, I just want to note that statutorily, it says the parents have 2 years to spend their funds. And so if we screw up that cycle for the first 2 years, I think it might cause some problems. So especially since a lot of the feedback for unspent funds is that people feel like they don't have quite enough money for what they wanted to get. So they're waiting for more to see if they can get more funds to cobble together. And that's not clear yet. So I would support the motion if it starts and at the end of the 2-year cycle that we're currently in.
Okay, would there be, I'm looking at Jen, do you see any issue or could there would be a way to work this so that we don't put someone at a disadvantage? I think that's a fair point. Is that a concern for you?
it's not a concern for me. I think even looking forward into the next RFP cycle, next contractor cycle, we've written in carefully how to handle those kind of projects. Lower funds would be continuously accessible. It shouldn't be an issue.
Would the motion maker consider adding on, a line with the start of the school year, access earlier funds with no impact to those currently participating? Would that cover the base on that?
Or would it be with like allowing the board to figure out how to line up the equity, can we retroactively give them kind of a couple more months because.
Well, I think again,
I don't know how
if we state the,
allowing-
if we state the recommendation, knowing that this group doesn't want to impact negatively someone that's already
Yeah.
participating,
So we
that the details can get worked out.
Yeah, without negatively
Yeah.
impacting current grades.
Okay, is that an amendment to your motion? Okay. Good. Jen.
I was just gonna clarify. I think what I'm hearing is maybe two separate things. So one, move the application, open the new application cycle earlier so that it's acceptable to applicants before school starts. But also remove the 2-year time limit.
Oh, no, I don't think the second one.
We just want to hold true to the last year's funding, that if they were funded in November, they have until 2 years later in
Yeah, they
And
November.
that's already true in the statute, so that isn't.
Okay, so that doesn't impact it. Oh, so then we don't even need, okay,
Hold those parents on this.
there we go. Amy?
Madam Chair, if it matters to anybody, I will be making a motion after this to recommend that we allow for the funds to roll over.
Well, let's finish
That'll
this.
help with the
Gotcha.
discussion,
Okay.
I think.
All right. The motion then has been to adjust the timeline, start of the school year with no negative impact or holding parents harmless. Is there a preference? Does the motion maker have a preference? Okay. We'll let the writer of the, anyway, decide which one. And there was a second. Amy, you were the second of that, I believe. Any discussion of this motion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. We are unanimous in favor. Looking down the rest of this list, are there, and we can go, just as a note, we can go one by one if there's something specific you want to cover or a tweak that you want to make. We can also have a motion that takes in several of them at the same time, just FYI.
Madam Chair, for a motion.
I know it's so hard to, Amy had just started to talk. Holly, can we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, Amy. I apologize.
It's hard to hear and see.
I'll be
and-
loud. Okay, let's see how I can do this, because I'm wondering if we should look at 3.1. This moving faster through the awards process. I don't know that we need a motion for that, because I feel like it was just wrapped up in 3.3.
No, yeah, I mean, we don't, you can.
Can I
accept-
ask Jen, am I okay to just ask her a question real quick? Do you need a motion for that to be wrapped up with 3.3? Do you need a recommendation for that, or do you feel like that's covered? Is that okay? Or do you want us to make a quick one?
I think it's strong. I think we hear that from the committee.
That it doesn't have to be a formal recommendation. Okay.
Okay, because we can wrap one up real quick if you need it. That's why I said, okay. Because I would like to make a motion to recommend. I'd like to move that we recommend, and I'll recommend that we move that 2-year. I would like them to be able to, I'm sorry, what can I do this? To roll over their funds after the 2-year period. However, sorry, pause. Yeah. I'd like to move that they may roll, the funds may roll over. For more than 2 years? Yeah, past the 2 years.
Definitely.
No, that's where I'm hesitant. For an additional year, I mean, how long do you guys want? I guess that's where I need the discussion.
I think 2 years is plenty.
Here's what, I don't,
Could be something to apply every year.
how about they can roll them over for the duration of their period in the grant? Why not?
Well,
I think that's already accomplished by virtue of
Yeah.
continuing to apply.
They can't. They end after the 2 years, and so they're needing to keep track of, let's say you have 3 kids, sorry, pausing. 3 kids, 3 grants, 2 years revolving with all of them, trying to keep track as this goes along. This is a nightmare. I see this happening. I'm seeing this in my head happening in the future, right, Jen? How are they keeping track of this? And they're like, I'm trying to spend my last $50. And so we have people, I'm trying to be fiscally responsible, and I'm watching this. I need to spend the $50, so I'm just gonna go spend the $50. And I would rather they could roll over the $50 into the next year for their 3 kids, because that's $150 for 3 kids, and use it the next year. Altogether, does that make sense? And so I'd like to give them a tool, a resource, so they have that option. Because if you have $3,000 every year, in essence, is what's gonna happen on a 2-year cycle, then you have 3,000 again, 3,000 again. If it continues like this, I'm using these numbers, 3,000 again. It would be nice if they didn't just lose that 50 or just spend it to be spending it.
What would you like?
The first 50 you spend on the next year.
If they could roll that 50 over into the
They
next.
have 2 years to spend it.
No, they're spending it to spend it so they don't lose it.
Because they
More
don't
than that.
understand that there's a two-year
Yeah,
time.
that's education.
Say again.
Okay, so I think I have a recommendation to make, like, so I think what parents are doing is they're trying to be like, okay, I need to spend grant A from this year.
Yes.
Where it's could the recommendation be that the contractor help ensure that the funds being spent on the oldest grant first for that family, so the family doesn't have to be like, I need to make sure that I'm spending this money and not the new.
So Jen, it sounds like this is
Does that
already
make sense? Or is that
addressed.
already?
Already with the contractor, it's been absolutely, they just haven't been applicable yet because they only have one.
Okay, so for Courtney and Holly, what Amy just described is accounted for in the contract with the contractor. But because there's only been one distribution, there's only one group of people, so it's not applicable.
Nobody has.
I mean, it hasn't kicked in, it's applicable.
Right.
It hasn't kicked in yet because nobody has reached the 2-year. Did I get that?
I have a follow-up comment. So with, currently, I have my grants and I can use it for 2 years, 2 years. So I can bank money to move it forward, so that I don't have to spend my $50 just to spend it. I can use it with the next year's grant award. My concern with opening up that window even longer, or saying, you know, their school career, whatever, that family could eventually, I mean, if we, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, like, that ends up being 10, like, a lot of money they could just bank and spend on something. I don't know where that ends. And then what do you, I don't understand what, I struggle with being able to tell taxpayers, yep, that we did that. A family could bank $20,000 and then spend it on camera, like, that's a lot of money for them to be able to do that. If there's a reason to maybe add a year, possibly, if there's an expense that is that, but I don't know that we're looking at expenses that are over $6,000.
That's why I'm saying, let's give them a time limit, but let's give them.
Well, it sounds like there is a process in place. And that it is a communication, education issue for the people that are involved on what they're able to do. So Amy, do you have a motion related to this or no?
Well, I do, because I want to know right now what's happening to their, because right now, if parents are not spending their money because of everything that they've gone through. Or they're holding their money, waiting to see what's eligible and ineligible. So at the end of the first 2 years, the money is coming back to the state.
So
You're concerned about- is that true?
In their 2 years, so from the date it was issued, the parent has 2 years to spend those funds.
Where the money goes.
Where the money goes back to the state.
Right, that is what I want to make a motion for. I do not want that to happen.
Okay, so let's hear your motion.
So that's what I'm saying. How long, I want to give them an extra year or 2 on that money. I want it to roll over. Because this is still in process and we need to give them extra time because of this being in process.
So what would you like your motion to be?
So I'm asking you, how long do they need?
Well, we don't know. I mean, and so,
That's why they need extra time.
okay, well,
So I'd like a motion to allow the money to roll over. So
But
let's,
we need to,
okay,
yeah,
here we
come up
go.
with it.
I'm going to move that we allow the grant fund money for the first 3 years to roll over
so 1 year in addition to the 2 they already
an
have.
extra year.
Okay.
Yes, please.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
Second, since we're still like trying to figure out
Okay,
what we're doing.
all right,
Phase.
okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Laura?
So clarification. So moving forward, the intent would be for it to stay the 2 years that's currently statute. So could I offer a clarification amendment that says,
The substitute.
yeah, substitute that says, we would like to allow current grantees, like the two, so just like this year's current grant holders.
And perhaps you can ask the motion maker to amend, that would probably be.
Yeah, just to
simpler
clarify
for all of
that
us.
the current people that are in the grant, we want to give them the extra time due to,
Administrative
yeah, to allow them
understanding.
to spend it with the clarification. I don't know how to word it correctly, but like, allow current grant holders.
So this, the first, the ones that are currently awarded, they would have an additional year to the 2 years that they already have, but only for this, right, the 2022, 2023 recipients.
Yeah,
So current.
the current recipients.
Yes,
So
as
you
in,
think we'll have everything cleaned up after these current folks?
We will, I mean, you will. So we've been tasked with make recommendations by September for this upcoming grant cycle. So I think for this part, we said the current grantees, we're gonna give them an extra year to do this.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think that's
So
fair.
if it's still left
Okay.
that money going forward, we could potentially make that recommendation again.
Great.
But
Well,
for
I
now-
will do that. I'll amend that. So the current grantees. So I'll amend my motion. Madam Chair, so. Amend the motion to say we, move to recommend that the current grantees have an additional year to spend the money.
Jody, how are you on seconding the amendment? motion? Okay. Okay. All right, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
It sounded unanimous, thank you. Holly, I wanted to go back to you.
Thank you so much. This is something we haven't yet talked about, but some of us have received the feedback and someone personally reached out to me about this issue. And I would like to move that the board create and post publicly a clear policy for 2 household families, which includes verification that the awards are given to the parent with authority to make educational decisions regarding the respective child. And I think that this is important, speaking to the motion, because right now it seems like there is some kind of policy. I think it might be based on taxes, and certainly the staff that's present can clarify for me. But my motion would be specific to educational decision making, and that the board go through a process to verify that through custodial paperwork and post that policy online. There have been several parents that have explained that, the non-custodial parent got the award and they get to spend the money, and that they shouldn't have the right to that money because they can't even make decisions about the child's education, et cetera. So,
So
Yeah.
Holly, Jason got a quick second in there for your motion. We would ask if you could send that to Allison, your exact wording, but also for the sake of the panel, if you would repeat the motion again. Again, Jason did second it.
absolutely. So the motion is that the board would create and post publicly a clear policy for 2 household families, which includes verification that the award is granted to the parent with authority to make educational decisions for the respective child.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there discussion of the motion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You're unanimous in favor. Thank you, and we'll wait for that motion and we'll be able to get that in the materials. Looking at the program administration, again, recognizing we don't have to go line by line. Are there any in here that you would like to keep? Any motions that can be made to take in these potential recommendations? Joni?
I would like to discuss why we couldn't have all three. Well, there's two different things, I guess. I'm fine with only 3 of the 5 kids getting awarded if we are going to lump it into one sum that the family could use in a combined manner.
Okay. So you're looking at 5 increase for student allocation. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the addition to that would be could be used for. I just want
All
All-
students within the.
I would like it to be, I don't want it to be, I think that it should be allocated per student. I guess if we're gonna stick to the 1,000 person or 1,000 per student, 3 max. But I think if there's 5 kids in the family, then all 5 kids can, or if there's only 3, I want the parent to be able to use those funds to the best of their ability.
rather than.
And
it
so I
has to
don't
be-
want them to, I mean, if they have a purchase for $1,200, I don't want them to have to wait a year to use it.
Oh, I
They can
see what you're
use
saying.
all
Like for
$3,000.
within the household,
Yeah, all 3 kids.
one
can use-
kid might need 1,200 and
Right.
another kid needs 800 or some,
Right.
that you could pool those.
The funds are pooled in the,
So you have your 3,000, you can spend it on any of your eligible children.
Okay.
right,
So you're only getting those 3 awards.
Right, I'm
Right.
seeing heads nod.
but that also would work in essence, if there's 5 kids in the family, then it works.
So all of your kids
For
are
all.
eligible, you're just gonna
Right.
get the max of 3,000. Yeah,
That's what it-
Well, is that a
I
motion?
was discussing.
Is that,
so-
okay, yeah, that's fine, we can keep going out of discussion, but I'm feeling a motion coming along, but.
I just wondered how you felt about increasing allocation of eligible students, perhaps.
Well, let's wait on that one, because that, I mean, whether it's increased or not.
I don't
you're-
mind
you're at-
discussing it though, and my stance on it is that we have limited amount of funds, and so you're hitting fewer families if you're giving one family $5,000 and another family's getting none.
But are you okay with every student in the family having it?
Every student would be eligible with the 3,000 max.
That, so you want it max at 3?
I mean, I'm up for discussion,
That's why,
that's what I'm
what
gonna.
Because, so I guess I'm okay with every family getting it up to $2,000 per, I guess, potentially per student in their household. I guess then the opening it up for any student, however, is a tricky one, because we're looking at, when we get to talking about categories and those kinds of things, if a family has 6 kids, and we get like potentially get $6,000, I wouldn't want that family spending it on one child necessarily, or like banking all that money for one. I just.
You're saying how could be used, right? You
Yeah.
want to have the
Well,
flexibility to.
I guess then it's like, but if we, I mean, there's an item in here for like tuition and fee for private school, like, that's just a so slippery,
Someone might want to use 6,000 to pay for
Right.
tuition.
right, so I guess I don't know how I would vote on this, not knowing what the committee's recommendation would be on. And, does that make sense?
What if it was 1,000 per student?
If it was 1,000 a night, as a mom, and spending 1,000 each child, I think.
Or
Yeah.
what if it wasn't, what if we didn't say the amount? What if we said any number of students, the word, and not a limit?
think the 3,000 is a good number. I think that it's way more families. If we start getting 6,000 and 8,000 to the families, we're losing chunks of our communities. And as of right now, with the expansion that we are doing, there's going to be a lot more low-income families trying that will be helping with this money. School districts are going to help get their low-income families in this program, and it will happen.
When we gave out all of the awards and turned eligible families.
But I'm talking like third wave.
Yeah.
Like losing the third wave altogether. That's my goal. That's sitting here and trying to get the low-income, at-risk kids better education.
Madam Chair, for consideration of time, do you think, can we move forward going through these recommendations and some of these ideas and stick with just some discussion? Do we have to move on every single one, or can we just say, I move that we, I don't even move that, but can we just go through these, kind of bypass, have individual motions for each one, and then at the end say, I move that we accept what we have voted on.
Yes, and maybe I probably didn't say that clear enough, but absolutely, you can have one motion that says you could have one motion at the end, we could have 4 motions. And again, looking at the time and don't want to shut down the discussion, but I think we probably, we've got lots of great experience and, ways of thinking about it. We will definitely have to push the rest to September, which is fine.
It sounds like we're going to get information on essentially Odyssey on there. So is it worth us looking at another work session before September to discuss and work on our recommendations for a contract recommendation? Because I worry about having just that one more meeting where we want to have.
We can do that online and get the questions addressed, and then position ourselves in September to be able to more quickly and seamlessly go through motions.
Madam Chair, as I know, the board is probably really eager to get our feedback on 4.0, the eligible purchases. And we're really short on time now. I would like to.
Okay.
Can I very quickly before we move off of, so for the recommendation is to keep it at $3,000 right now.
I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. No, that's right. I'm just thinking that maybe even just the eligible purchases, because I think that really does start getting to the heart of the matter of so many of the discussions that we're having. If we could do a virtual workshop for that before September, just to make sure that that gets addressed before our final meeting that we'll have before we get things.
And I appreciate that, and another reason why that's important, besides being able to really efficiently use the time to go through what you want as your final recommendations. We're in this thinking of people that are currently in the program. No one has been officially sent an email saying you are denied. And Jen, this is where I'm going to let you, just to explain where we are, because recommendations for a program moving forward do touch on the appeals process that is a charge of this board. And so let's come, yes, on the work session, yes, for getting questions answered. Jen, what is it that you need from this group in order to finish the work of the current people?
I think, so just to kind of touch quickly on the section 4 here that you have, what this will do, if we can get to a recommendation on this today or next month.
Sorry, Jen, can you speak up? We can't hear you quite well.
Maybe go close to this.
I have had to carry a microphone around before, so I'm sorry. Yeah, so if this committee can get to some sort of a motion, if you want to recommend these categories or not want to recommend these categories, what it informs for us going forward is what items we can allow Odyssey to put on the platform for parents who are currently in the system and parents who may be in the system in the future. So the sooner the better, honestly, for that purpose. It also allows us to make clearer decisions about some of the things that are gray area. those folks in the gray area, we've not informed them that we're not sure if that purchase is eligible or not. So no parent has been removed from the platform because of an ineligible purchase. That simply has not happened. We have not removed them because we want to make sure that we're making a clear decision. We're reviewing everything else. Getting a little additional context. So Krista would prove earlier. We're not asking parents to prove anything. We're just asking, can you give us a little more context so we can understand why this purchase is necessary for your child? The funds that were used for the first year of the program were federal funds. And so they are restricted a little more in how they can be used to buy and purchase with those funds than state funds. So we have to just make sure that we're clear about what happened and what's going to happen. And so that's why we're asking the additional questions. I know it's messy. I know parents are frustrated. I get that. I would be really frustrated too. But we want to be good stewards of those dollars and make sure that we can clearly answer that this was an important purchase because of whatever reason. So we have asked for some additional clarification and context. I feel bad that parents are feeling like that's a request to prove themselves, because that's not the case at all. It's just an ask for help us understand so that we can better justify when it comes to with I think I've probably gone off the rails. So
No,
bring me
no,
back to
no,
the question
no,
you want
it's
me to
good.
answer.
Well, I think it brings us back full circle on, again, with the time frame that we have. Do we want to act on anything in this section today?
Yeah, we do. I do. I like to make a motion.
Oh, sorry, Holly. But before the motion, because it looks like the hand predated the motion, so.
Yeah, I just want to stress that I think it's really important that we do not make any recommendations about the ineligible or eligible conversation right now, because of the fact that that has an implication on the liability of who may or may not have to pay that back. And I don't think that's a discussion that we as a lay panel of parents are fully informed and qualified to make. So I asked for clarification as to whether the board was asking us to make a determination for eligibility. I didn't receive a specific request. I haven't seen that request in any of our materials to date. There's certainly been a lot of information provided, and those categories are certainly helpful for us to talk about for the future. But again, to really be sure that the appeals process has integrity, I don't think it's appropriate that we make decisions on that at all.
Jen?
Thank you, Holly, and Superintendent. Sorry. I do just want to clarify, Holly, no parent, even if a purchase was determined to be ineligible, no parent is going to be asked to repay anything. Odyssey will be responsible for repaying the state for any items, for the cost of any items that are ineligible. Odyssey has already agreed to that. That will not be passed on to any parents at all. It is simply an exercise in determining whether or not the funds were spent in an appropriate way. We acknowledge that perhaps the boundaries around what items were allowed to be purchased on the platform may have been broader than we thought. That I don't want to throw Odyssey under the bus, because I recognize that they're doing the best they can to navigate the process. But in the original RFP, it was indicated to us that Odyssey had the ability to limit what a contractor or what a vendor could and could not place on the platform. Very quickly, we recognized that that wasn't actually the case. And so we have now moved to the punch out system, which gives us that back end control over the process. So we acknowledge that it's not necessarily the parent's fault. They logged into the system, they saw what was available to purchase, they made the purchase. They should be able to trust that those are eligible items to purchase. We get that, we understand that. We've asked Odyssey to foot the bill for anything that has been purchased that is ultimately determined to be ineligible. So I just want to be really clear that there is no request for parents to pay back any. That is not at all.
That's very important information.
punch out system, is that the board is approving those, or is that Odyssey or both, or?
We've put both systems in place. So Odyssey's team is now doing a punch out review on every single item.
So they're
They're doing it. And then we are also double checking every single purchase, every single morning. So for us, it's within 48 hours of the purchase, and any item we identify as potentially being ineligible, and this is from August 1st going forward, right? We can request that Odyssey reverse that purchase. If that item has already been purchased, Odyssey.
also mentioned the gray area. So is the gray area, they're just sitting there in limbo waiting for approval, or what is the gray area?
Yes, thank you. I think that was another thing I wanted to clarify from earlier in the conversation. There are no purchases that are sitting in limbo. So if the parent chooses to make a purchase, Odyssey, as Megan mentioned earlier, within 48 hours of that is making a decision about approving or not approving that purchase. And then that moves forward, and we're just double checking on the back end of that as well. So what I mean by gray area are purchases that were made in the past before these protections were in place. We just need to make sure we know where they land. Were they supposed to have been purchased, or should they not have been? So we're just trying to kind of think that through and make those decisions so we can solidify the dollar. That's the purpose of it. That's the whole point. Get across. So if the parent panel were to approve backpacks, we would look at those items in the backpack area, and we wouldn't include that cost in the eligible purchase. That's the going back. That's all on us. That's not anything we're asking you to do. We just would like to be able to know, what do we allow Odyssey to put on the workers next.
Okay, thank you, Jen. No, don't be sorry.
It was extremely helpful. Thank you so much, Jen.
Okay, you got a motion?
I do. And I know that I will refrain because I had a whole bunch. So if you'll just appease me, I don't think there'll be any discussion and we can get these done very quickly,
That's high hopes.
right?
Yeah.
I know we're almost out of time, but I have 5.
I motion.
But here we go. The first one is I motion that the panel recommend to approve musical instruments and tutoring.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'm sorry.
Are you gonna do all 5 at once?
Do you want me to? I think it'll be faster if I do one at a time.
Only because there may be someone that likes one but doesn't.
Yeah,
like the
musical
other.
instruments and tutoring.
A recommendation or a motion to recommend musical instruments and tutoring as eligible expenses.
As in musical tutoring? No, or any tutoring. I'm just putting these together because they're
Instruments.
categories. Musical instruments and tutoring.
Any musical? Well, we haven't got a second.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you,
Just to get the
Jason.
discussion.
Okay.
So,
No band,
yeah, but
cello,
like electric guitar, feather guitar,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
musical instruments, drums. They're being denied and they're being found ineligible right now.
And musical instruments. Yeah.
An instrument.
It's
I
an
understand
instrument.
what you're saying, though. There's a point of,
There's a point of like where,
are you gonna,
yes, like, are you pulling all your money to get a really expensive guitar for one of your students?
I know.
Or, but
Feel the
that's
same way
still,
about
it's still
tennis shoes and
educational,
uniforms.
it's still everything,
Yeah.
it's still, and so, okay.
There's a second, or there has been a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of musical instruments and tutoring being eligible expenses, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, we're in favor. Or it passes. Or any opposed? Did I ask that? Okay. Okay. I'm taking those two. Okay. Amy.
I recommend that we, the panel, I motion, remove that we recommend the panel that we reimburse, that they reimburse internet services.
For a second.
I'll second that.
Discussion of the motion.
It's been very difficult. A lot of smaller, especially smaller towns, I'm talking louder, sorry, are having difficulty getting the services. The providers are not on the marketplace that are in their town.
There's over 3,500 servers. I went to that, there's like 3,000.
But they're not.
Oh, no, I'm saying,
She's supporting.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
yes.
because you can't reach out to all of them.
Yes.
There's like 10 where I live, and none of them work at all the same place.
Yeah, they're having a hard time.
If your house is over there, you don't get that.
Further
I know.
discussion of the motion? All right, moving to the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That I did hear as unanimous in favor. Okay.
Hey, I move that the panel recommend that those in the past that were already deemed eligible and now are being found ineligible and however this process goes, okay, are grandfathered in and are not kicked out of the program.
Discussion of the motion.
I believe, Allison, just for recording purposes, that probably would fall under that 1.1, but not for future grants.
But it's just, yeah, just the current year.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Any opposed? We are unanimous in favor.
Thank you. Almost done.
I'm just going to abstain from that one. Sorry.
Okay,
I just
abstention.
haven't had time to think it through.
Oh, you're fine. So 6 in favor, 6 ayes, 1 abstention.
And then, okay, Madam Chair, motion that we recommend that LEAs and Idaho colleges and universities, we recommend that they are vendors in the marketplace.
Second.
Well, it's on there. but
It's way more
Right,
complicated.
2.5.
It's way more complicated than that. So that's what that first motion was.
Oh, it was. Did we remember that today?
Well,
The very
that was
first thing.
to open it up
But this would be that they're vendors.
They're
You just
as vendors
automatically
in the
want them.
marketplace.
We just add.
But
Yeah.
but it's way more complicated. But you could recommend.
Well,
it.
yes,
That's
I
not
want
great.
them to do
We
it.
can make the recommendation.
Yes.
So 2.5, Amy,
Yes.
says to add LEAs and Idaho colleges and universities as vendors in the market.
Yes.
Okay, is there a
Do you
second?
want to go with that?
Yes.
So you're going to withdraw?
No, I think her.
That's what you-
She is moving.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Discussion of the motion?
I disagree with this motion because it is it's going over the top of the local board. So your board should be deciding whether you are a vendor. Because now if the state board is saying everybody's a vendor,
Okay.
then your local board is losing control. So you're losing local control.
Then I'll withdraw it.
Well, let me say this. Writing this, putting this in there, it wasn't that it was a have to, it was an ability to do that.
Which there is an ability, which is just taking a lot more work.
They have to go. How about I recommend that they go to them and we recommend they go and get them on there, streamline it and add them to the marketplace.
I think that.
Streamline
Which
the option too.
Or recommend.
I'm recommending to the board that they go and get them on there, help them, encourage them.
School boards, though, when the board comes to the school boards, they, as a recommendation, they view that. I don't know in your situation, but typically they view it as it's a recommendation, but do it.
Well,
I
I'm
think
sorry,
that-
sorry, I thought this would be a fast action. I'm not going to make this difficult. So maybe we'll come back to this later. I'll withdraw my motion
Okay, motion is withdrawn.
because of time.
Jen, you have something?
Please just keep going. Okay, last one, I would like to, Madam Chair, move that we reject that parents have state vendors for in-person. What was it? Reject out-of-state vendors for in-person enrichment opportunities.
So I think you're referencing 2.4.
2.41, yes. Yes, 2.4.
Expand vendor services to out-of-state vendors providing educational services. Option 1, allow parents to select out-of-state vendors offering in-person educational enrichment opportunities.
2.41, reject 2.41.
That's
Yeah, but
2.41.
we don't take an action. So we're not gonna-
So if that's something that we're just going to remove moving forward, that's not.
We don't even need an action.
But I want to make a recommendation to reject that. And I will have a discussion of why.
But we don't have to have a recommendation to reject it, we just want to include it.
Are you sure?
This is just a working document, nothing set in stone with any of this. This is how we're just gonna work.
Can I go in discussion on that really quick?
Well, yeah, I was gonna discuss it because the senator made it very clear, and so did the House and Senate Education Committees, that they did not want that.
And you don't have to recommend it and you don't need a motion unless someone wants it.
I'm just saying, living up where we live, we're 30 miles from Washington, we're 30 miles from Montana, we're 30 miles from 40 miles from Canada. And there's a lot of stuff,
Everything else in it.
a lot more miles than everything else in Idaho. And I see a lot of value if my kids would go to a camp at WSU or Gonzaga or UW or Montana State. And so kind of taking that off in terms of the northern part of the state where we don't have a lot available, the closest university to the northern for all of LD1 is U of I, which is over 2.5 hours away, where a lot of Washington universities are a lot closer. And I'm saying that they're the ones that have cancer. We don't have those things. There's not that opportunity. So I do think it kind of restricts them in terms of regionality of where we live. That maybe on southern Idaho, you guys might not recognize that really some opportunity.
And that's not what we're trying to do at all.
I
We're just
think
trying to
we're
keep the
trying to keep it
Idaho
in the state.
taxpayer dollars in the state.
And trust me, I absolutely recognize that. I think there's a lot of ways that there's really to be good stewards. That's just something that I kind of see a blanket objection to that.
Right.
I do think you're starting to look at the northern 10 counties in the state that really limit the kids' opportunities to go to, say, a really cool camp or a really cool class, just because of our regional restrictions.
Okay. My recommendation to the group at this point is that we honor the time, knowing where everyone's got to travel. The question has been asked if we can have a work session. Yes, and I believe we need that as an interim before we get to September. We will send out a Google poll or something. We won't take the time to go through everyone's calendars right now on the spot. That could take another 15 minutes. And so we'll send something out. We will allow that to be, not allow, but we'll make sure that it's virtual. If you're invoicing, you want to come, great. If not, we've got the computer for that. Let's plan for a couple of hours for that. Appeals, Jen, we'll want to dive into that more, and then we'll continue our work on these recommendations. What I would ask you as homework is to look through these sheets, and if there is something on there that it's what I like, except I want to add this, or I like this part, but I don't, that we come ready to just go through what we've got here and see what we've missed and go from there. Allison?
If possible, it would be nice to have those in advance, just because if there's a general consensus of a yes or a no, at least for the work session, we'll know which ones to focus on.
That's true. If there's,
I have a question about that for you. So when we're responding via email, are we not supposed to do that?
Please respond individually to.
yeah,
To me.
send it to Allison or to me,
Or to the
not, but
parents,
not,
but
yeah,
not
not to
all.
the whole group, and don't reply all. That's when we get into trouble with
If
serial
yours
emails.
applies to us,
If you do CC, then we can't reply.
Well, what we'll do is we will get the information to you. We won't keep it. We'll just, we'll send it, and then we keep
What I'm
everybody
saying
nice.
is you could apply and copy us, and then if somebody hits reply all, it doesn't look necessary. That's like most.
Well,
I move to adjourn.
second on that. Take the pick on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Courtney and Holly, for hanging in there with us. Sure appreciate you both.
Thank you. Drive safely.
Thank you, and thank you, Randy Lord, for
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right.